Good evening. I'd like to call to order our City Council meeting for August 10th, 2026. If you're able, please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Councilmember Holteen,
Present.
Councilmember Larson,
Present.
Councilmember Martell,
Here.
Councilmember Ohm,
Here.
Councilmember Okada,
Here.
Councilmember Quinn,
Here, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Snell,
Present.
Councilmember Wood.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilors, in your packet, we had the City Council meeting minutes for July 27, 2026, and the study session notes for July 27, 2026. Do we have any notes to those? No notes or changes. Thank you to our clerk's office for their hard work on this. And we'll go to approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes for tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we have one proclamation tonight, so. If I may have Officer Alan Fisher join me up here. It's my honor tonight to honor the retirement of Officer Alan Fisher. Whereas Officer Alan Fisher began his career with the Wheat Ridge Police Department on August 1st, 2002, and retired on August 3rd, 2026, after 24 years of dedicated and faithful service to the Wheat Ridge community. And whereas, throughout his distinguished tenure, Officer Fisher served on the front lines of law enforcement patrol for his entire 24-year career, acting as a steady, reliable member of the department and a consistent pillar of safety for the citizens of Wheat Ridge. And whereas, on October 24th, 2004, Officer Fisher demonstrated exceptional bravery when he was the first officer on a scene of a report of shots fired at a residence on Newland Street, immediately entering the house amidst hundreds of fleeing individuals to secure the scene and render aid. And whereas, in April 2022, Officer Fisher displayed tremendous courage, fortitude, and sacrifice when he survived severe injuries after being violently attacked in the line of duty while apprehending a suspect, enduring a grueling recovery with unwavering resilience and quiet strength. And whereas Officer Fisher's commitment to public service, steady leadership under pressure, and quiet dedication on the street served as a constant source of inspiration to his fellow officers and left a lasting impression on the department. And whereas through his courage, professionalism, and 2.5 decades of steadfast service, Officer Fisher has earned the profound respect, admiration, and gratitude of his peers, the department, and the community he faithfully served. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Wheat Ridge do hereby recognize and honor Officer Fisher for 24 years of outstanding service, courage, and commitment to the Wheat Ridge Police Department and the citizens of Wheat Ridge. We extend our heartfelt appreciation and best wishes to Officer Fisher for his well-deserved retirement. Proclaimed on this 10th day of August, 2026. Let's give it up for Officer Alan Fisher.
You don't have to stop yet. I just would like to say thank you very much. It's a great honor, and it's been a great honor to serve the community in Wheat Ridge for all this time. It really is a good community, so with a lot of good people. I didn't really prepare a speech, so, but yeah, I'm very honored, so I appreciate everything. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for indulging me for just a moment here. Officer Fisher is a special officer in the Wheat Ridge Police Department Hearts and Minds. As many of you know, he suffered a vicious attack, was stabbed at least 7 times, as many as 14. We're not sure because some of them were just slices through and through. On that very heart-wrenching evening, I had the privilege of sitting with his wife, Kathy, who's here tonight, and I got to meet the family in a way that you don't often want to, but was able to. But that's just part of Alan's career of service. 24 years isn't defined by just that one moment where he demonstrated the courage to fight through a vicious attack like that. It's always my privilege to have the right as the chief of police representing the Wheat Ridge Police Department and the members of our community to offer a Chiefs Award where I think it's appropriate. And I think in this case it is appropriate for Alan to receive that Chiefs Award. Before I give it to him, and I'll just read it and be done for tonight with Alan and let him go on about his retirement, I want to say Alan's one of his many things. He's dedicated and hardworking. I don't know if you know this, he's a bit of a philanthropist who gives back to the Wheat Ridge community in ways that you don't always understand. Alan's use of the red light speed camera for his own purposes has resulted in really a cash windfall for the Wheat Ridge city coffers. And over his time, I think he's 6 or 7 six citations. So I just want to thank him for what he's done in ways that he couldn't even imagine. Standing in the back, watching over us is Officer Larry Taggart. In Larry's words, when Alan walks around and complains about the tickets he gets and the fact that he has to pay them, Larry coined a phrase that myself and Mr. Goff use very liberally. There's a solution to your problem, and that solution is to slow down. So thank you for that, Alan. And the Chiefs Award, presented very infrequently, but in this case, I think it's honored. I'll read it. This Chiefs Award is presented to Officer Alan Fisher in recognition of 24 years of dedicated service. An officer is defined by more than a single incident. Their character is revealed in the moments that test them most. You faced a life-threatening situation with courage and professionalism. The resilience you demonstrated not only supported your own recovery, but also strengthened our department. We saw your determination firsthand as you worked to regain your footing after your injuries, and your dauntless spirit inspired those around you. Your career will be remembered for far more than one event. Over the past 24 years, you have shown pride, determination, and professionalism while protecting and serving the Wheat Ridge community. You can and should take justified pride in everything you've accomplished. Enjoy your well-earned retirement. Thank you, Alan.
We'll move on to our public's right to speak. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak on any agenda item not on the agenda tonight. When you get up to the podium, please introduce yourself, spell your last name for the record, let us know whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. On the clerk's desk, there are 3 lights. When it's green, you have plenty of time to speak. When it starts flashing, you have about a minute. When it gets to the yellow light, you have about 30 seconds to wrap it up. And when it gets to red, please wrap up your comments. We'll go ahead and call up the person who's coming up, and then we'll call up the person who's on deck as well. I apologize if I mess up any names. First up, we have Tom Huxley and Asango is on deck. 3 minutes for public comment.
Mr. Mayo, Council, thanks for your time. I'm Tom Huxley, Huxley. I want to address last week's prosperity plan and request for budget on the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board of directors, and just wanted to say that we do identify with several points in the prosperity plan, not least of which is the building a support ecosystem for the businesses in Wheat Ridge, identifying properties in need of building upgrades, identifying small scale industrial companies in need of flex space in various opportunities for inside larger industrial spaces, hands-on support connecting businesses to resources and opportunities in the Wheat Ridge community, attracting and supporting new businesses as they come in, identifying businesses in need of pop-up spaces. That would be just a tremendous windfall for some of the new businesses coming into the Wheat Ridge Chamber. Could certainly help you identify Wheat Ridge testimonials of businesses that have been helped by the Chamber, and having a finger on the pulse of the business community in Wheat Ridge. And a lot of these things pertain to outreach and identifying new opportunities. Certainly, we are in contact with all of our existing members, but there is a large need to reach out to a number somewhere in the tune of 1,000 businesses that we have not been in contact with. So that would be a large portion of the line item for outreach that we were seeking. So any additional funds that could go towards that, we would greatly appreciate it. And that would be on my agenda, is to reach out to those businesses. So that would be a great help. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have, and again, I apologize, Ashango.
Hi, my name is Ascenzo Di Giacomo. It's D-I, capital G-I-A-C-O-M-O. I do not live and work in Wheat Ridge. I live in Lakewood. I just wanted to start out tonight's meeting with a couple procedural things. I'm actually a land planner, going to speak on the project coming up, but I wanted to mention something about what I learned this week about navigating around the city's website. I had some great difficulty actually, information gathering and finding, headings and different things. And I think that, there's a possibility that many other citizens are having trouble with the website also. I've worked in many municipalities, over this, in the state of Colorado and Utah, and I didn't find it very user-friendly, and I apologize for kind of starting out on somewhat of a critical note, but I just thought it would be good to suggest that to you, that maybe you could inquire with the planning staff and find out if there's a way to kind of get a little bit more user-friendly and have it be just a little more clear. The fact that you have Wheat Ridge Speaks in a number of places where you actually are going to hit click that link for a project just doesn't seem intuitive to me. And then furthermore, when I was looking for additional information about projects, I wasn't able to find them anywhere. There was no master folder. I had to contact Stephanie to find out, where I could find will serve letters and other things. And she had to bring those to me. In other municipalities, there's a history. If this project has a 2024 project number, then why isn't there 2 years worth of submittals and comments and so forth on there for a professional like me and even a citizen that's concerned about the project that they could see? I just think that would be very helpful. Another thing is I found out from her that, I even had problem today uploading the comment letter. I put it in the wrong place. I put it under public comment and not under the project itself. Also, I found out from Stephanie that the mayor has a discretion of reducing the amount of time that the citizens speak from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. I think that is not a good policy, and especially considering that these citizens have been working on this project for 2 years. They've spent hundreds of hours. I can guarantee you they've probably spent more hours than the planning staff on this project collectively for a project that is very, very near and dear to them. So I would hope that the mayor does not do that tonight, and there's 20 people on the list, so that means an extra minute, that extra 20 minutes that we all have to sit here and listen to a project that is very important. And also, you know, many prepare for a 3-minute speech and then have to pivot to a 2-minute speech, which is very difficult.
Thank you.
I had great difficulty just trying to get discuss anything in 2 minutes.
Thank you.
And I prepared my own words today, so
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 1. Councilor Okada, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce Council Bill number 15-2026, an ordinance approving the rezoning property located at 5225 Swadley Street from agricultural 2 to planned residential development with approval of an outline development plan, case number WZ-24-09. At issue, the applicant is requesting approval of a zone change from agricultural 2 to planned residential development with an outline development plan to facilitate the development of up to 18 single-unit dwellings on the 4.97 acre property located at 5225 Swadley Street. A legal protest has been submitted and verified, so the zone change will require at least 6 affirmative votes by City Council for approval at second reading.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing. It is quasi-judicial. I will open the public hearing and ask Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation?
We do, thank you. Stephanie Stevens is our case planner on this project. Thanks.
Hi. Yes. Sorry, I'm having trouble with the clicker. Sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Stephanie Stevens, and I'm a planner with the City of Wheat Ridge Community Development Department, presenting case number WZ-2409, which is a request for approval of a zone change from agricultural 2 to planned residential development with an outline development plan to facilitate development of up to 18 units at 5225 Swadley. I would like to enter into the public record the contents of the case file, the zoning ordinance, the comprehensive plan, and this digital presentation. I'm also entering into the record 10 emailed public comments that have been sent and reviewed by City Council in advance of the hearing. The property is within the City of Wheat Ridge. All appropriate notification and posting requirements have been met. Therefore, City Council has jurisdiction to hear this case. The property is located on the north side of West 52nd Avenue and Swadley Street, east of Tabor Street. The property is currently zoned agricultural 2 and is platted as Lot 12 of the Stanley Heights subdivision. The property is approximately 4.97 acres in size and contains 3 single-unit homes, 2 pole barns, 2 detached garages, all built in 1937 and 1961. Adjacent properties to the west and north are incorporated into the city of Arvada. The adjacent property to the northeast is part of unincorporated Jefferson County. And properties within the city of Wheat Ridge to the south are zoned residential 2, and immediate property to the east is zoned agricultural 2. Uses in the immediate vicinity include low to moderate density residential and agricultural. And the site is located in the northwest corner of Wheat Ridge, but is just outside of the boundary of the Northwest Sub-Area Plan, which covers the area south of West 52nd Avenue. The site is about a quarter mile from the Wheat Ridge Ward Station and within 1 mile of the Arvada Ridge Station. The applicant is requesting approval of a zone change from agricultural to planned residential development with an outline development plan. And the code allows for processing ODPs and SDPs concurrently or sequentially, and the applicant has chosen the sequential 2-step option. SDP and subdivision will come after ODP if it is approved. I'll go through the ODP document, then talk about the criteria of review and staff findings. The ODP establishes the planned residential district zoning. It is 3 sheets in this case, which is in the staff report. First page is a cover sheet with certification and signature blocks for property owners, planning commission, city council, and the mayor. It also includes a character of development statement, development standards, and standard notes. The second page includes permitted uses and a conceptual layout of the property, including access, open space, and lots. The third page in this scenario includes an alternative conceptual layout under the same standards. The ODP is a property-specific zoning document that establishes the underlying development standards, which would run with the land if approved and cannot be changed without going through a subsequent zone change process. The ODP represents a phased approach to development with two distinct planning areas. Planning Area 1 is to contain single-unit homes, while Planning Area 2 is to be preserved primarily for open space with allowances for secondary uses that are more agricultural in nature to complement the existing zoning and adjacent uses. The plan proposes a 14 to 18 home traditional neighborhood development designed around central linear open space to foster community, enhance walkability, and integrate smoothly with adjacent neighborhoods. For circulation, access enters from the east and west borders, connecting to a looped perimeter drive. The loop acts as a buffer while consolidating vehicular flow, pedestrian paths, fire access, and utilities, with most primary structures situated inside the loop. The perimeter will also be bordered by a 6-foot solid fence. Finally, to adapt to market conditions and resident needs of the community, the ODP provides two layout scenarios. Scenario 1 consolidates the Planning Area 2 open space in the center with potential for 2 single-unit lots on the north end. And Scenario 2 splits Planning Area 2 into a central green space between the homes, placing common amenities north of the drive. The final layout and amenity placement will ultimately be locked in during the specific development plan phase. The development standards generally follow the residential 1C zone district of Wheat Ridge, with some standards borrow from agricultural 2 to create a unique zoning framework. The intent is to locate uses in appropriate locations that are compatible to adjacent uses. For example, to the west lies a typical single-unit neighborhood in Arvada, with lots that are approximately 70 feet wide on that adjacent side. The adjacent homes within the subject development are proposed to be 100 to 120 feet wide on this side. Planning Area 2, which is proposed to be more agricultural, is sited north and or east where adjacent uses are agricultural and residential. Perimeter setbacks are stricter than typical residential districts and match those of agricultural districts for this reason. Buffering is substantial where adjacent to lower density residential and agricultural uses. And in the spirit of providing high quality development through planned development, the project also proposes on-site parking and circulation, increased open space, on-site detention, and architectural and design standards not typical of single-unit neighborhoods. The allowable uses in Planning Area 1 include single-unit dwellings to match those permitted in base residential zones such as Residential 1. Planning Area 2 is intended as an extension of Planning Area 1 and is primarily reserved as open space with accessory uses that are more agricultural. No dwelling units would be permitted on Planning Area 2. Pursuant to the city charter, the density limitation for the site is 21 dwelling units per acre, resulting in a maximum of 104 units being allowed on the subject 4.97 acre site, where a maximum of 18 units is proposed. While individual lots are comparable to the city's residential 1C zone district standards, the overall density of the site is more comparable to the residential 1 zone district, which allows 4 units per acre. The lots are spread evenly throughout the development with the intent of harmonizing with densities of the adjacent neighborhood to the west. The ODP aligns closely with standard residential zone districts. It proposes maximum building height of 35 feet, maximum lot coverage of 40% in Planning Area 1 and 25% in Planning Area 2, and minimum 5,000 square foot lots, which match Residential 1C. Standard bulk plane applies and perimeter setbacks will match surrounding zone districts. The ODP matches base residential parking rules, including standard electrical vehicle and bike requirements, and the ability to require guest parking at the director's discretion. Access will feature 2 points along 52nd Avenue to create a looped drive. This loop supports required utility infrastructure, fire access, and on-site circulation while pushing primary buildings back to create a generous setback from property lines. In early designs, the applicant proposed one point of access only from 52nd Avenue, ending in a cul-de-sac configuration, but due to the strict need for looped utility systems, 2 point of access are required. The drive creates additional buffer from adjacent uses, results in primary buildings that are set back around 35 feet, even if the setback requirements are less. Engineering had no concerns regarding traffic or drainage. Site-generated traffic will be minor, with fewer than 20 trips expected during the peak hour. And full water quality and detention will be integrated directly into the linear open space using low-impact design practices. Full reports and analysis will be required at specific development plan level. The ODP exceeds city landscaping requirements, introducing a 5-foot buffer with plantings, solid side and rear fencing, and horse-safe fencing along eastern border adjacent to agricultural land. To ensure a cohesive yet varied aesthetic, the ODP requires traditional architecture with at least 3 distinct model types, with lots along 52nd Avenue to be oriented towards the street for community integration. In all other areas, the project proposed to comply with the zoning code, including but not limited to lighting, signage, fencing, and streetscape design. We use several criteria to evaluate zone change requests, which includes consistency with the comprehensive plan. A full analysis of that criteria for consideration are provided in your staff report. In short, the proposal aligns with the city's adopted plans, including the city plan. The housing options allowed by the proposed zone change directly support city plan core values to be inclusive and the principle of serving a mix of incomes. It also aligns with the desired outcome of peaceful coexistence by thoughtfully applying and calibrating form and use tools based on the features of adjacent properties. The city plan identifies the site as a moderate variety neighborhood place type, and it also qualifies as a special case agricultural reuse site. The plan specifies the appropriate application of use and form in this context. For this location, a wide variety of housing types ranging from single unit to multi-unit residential adjacent to 52nd Avenue are appropriate. The proposed site design responds to the form and design recommendations of the city plan, incorporating increased setbacks to match agricultural uses to the east. Architecture, bulk plane, and form requirements provide for compatibility with adjacent uses. Appropriate screening and buffering are included, and parking needs are addressed on site. Finally, the city plan includes an implementation strategies to support housing development to meet community goals. This includes reviewing the situation against regional housing needs. The DRCOG Regional Housing Needs Assessment shows there's a clear need for market rate single unit homes in Wheat Ridge. As a requirement of the zone change process, a virtual neighborhood meeting was held on January 23rd, 2024, and 54 members of the public attended the meeting. The notes from the meeting are included in the staff report. We sent the application on referral to service districts as well as completed an internal review. We did not receive concerns or objections from these agencies. Before the hearing, the property was posted for 15 days and letters were sent to property owners and tenants within a 1,000-mile radius. So sorry, 1,000 foot. The project, that would be a lot of mailings. The project was posted to Wheat Ridge Speaks. Planning Commission made a recommendation of approval at the hearing that took place on June 18th, and City Council is to make a final decision on the request. Note that a zone change protest was received and has been confirmed legitimate. This means that the zone change ordinance will require at least 6 positive votes of City Council for approval. Staff received 29 comments on Wheat Ridge Speaks ahead of the City Council hearing, 28 of which expressed opposition, primarily from adjacent Rainbow Ridge neighbors. This is in addition to the 41 comments received ahead of Planning Commission hearing, which are included in the staff report. 10 additional comments of opposition were provided by email and were sent and reviewed by council ahead of this hearing. Neighbor feedback directly shaped staff's review and the applicant's proposal. We've been working with the applicant for over 4 years now, and the applicant has made substantial revisions to address feedback, reducing total density from over 49 units to 18, increasing lot sizes, restricting allowable land uses, and incorporating greater buffering and fencing, which were all direct requests from neighbors. Proposed standards are similar and compatible with Rainbow Ridge as shown on the table on this slide. Planned residential development zoning trades smaller lot footprints for significant HOA open space, preserving agricultural character while maintaining low density. Neighbors requested specific conditions, however, staff respectfully recommends approval without conditions because staff finds that the ODP achieves compatibility and meets criteria of review. Detailed design such as lighting, drainage, architecture, and streetscape improvements will be evaluated during specific development plan stage. The purpose of the ODP is to provide the parameters or rules that will govern the physical design and is meant to be conceptual. Lastly, receipt of a legal protest changes the voting threshold, not the legal criteria, and staff finds that those criteria are met. Staff has concluded that the proposed rezoning and outline development plan are consistent with the zone change criteria. Because the requirements for an ODP have been met and review criteria support the ODP, a recommendation of approval is given. Ultimately, staff is recommending approval of the request with no conditions. City Council is the final decision maker on the request, and if City Council approves, the zone change is approved and the applicant can move forward to specific development plan and subdivision platting. That concludes my presentation. I'm here for questions. The applicant does not have a presentation, but is also here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to questions from council, we will go ahead and go to our questions and comments from the public. We will allow public comment for 2 minutes. When you come up, please introduce yourself, spell your last name for the record, let us know whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge, and then again, watch the lights as the lights are green. You have plenty of time. When it starts flashing, you have about a minute. When it goes to yellow, you have about 30 seconds. And when it's red, please go ahead and wrap up your comments. We will again call up the first person, and then if we can have the person on deck kind of line up off to the side there so we can keep it moving. And again, I apologize if I mess up anybody's names. Our first speaker tonight is Jamie Barudia and Greg Tamia is on deck.
Hi, it's Barusha, Barrutia. I live at 5250 Tabor Street, directly bordering this property. I'm speaking first tonight to set the stage for the neighbors filling this room and joining online. We've organized deliberately, each speaker covering one distinct point so we don't repeat ourselves and you get a more complete picture in the time you've given us. First, what this is not. This is not NIMBYism. We know this parcel will be developed. We are not anti-growth. For 2 years, we've engaged in good faith, working toward what staff's own memo promises, a high-quality development that fits our neighborhood. Asking for baseline compatibility is standard land use planning, not opposition to growth. And yet, for 2 years, neither staff nor the applicant has incorporated or even acknowledged a single piece of our feedback on height, buffers, road design in the official record. That defeats the purpose of public process. This rezoning requires a supermajority, as you know, to decide what becomes a law. It's a serious responsibility, and we ask you to use it with planning conscience. Lines on a map don't stop real-world impact. Directly across this boundary, code caps height at 28 feet. Wheat Ridge's own 2025 plan calls this exact block a transitional area meant to achieve peaceful coexistence. 35-foot flat roof buildings pushed against an established 28-foot neighborhood is not that in any direction. Between the same gap between promise and paper shows up in the buffer. The ODP's landscape buffer is just 5 feet, padded out by folding in the road itself. Pavement is not a buffer. 5 foot of dirt cannot hold a canopy tree or screen headlights and noise. It's not theoretical. Two entry drives sit close together, and the west entrance doesn't align with Swadley, an unsafe intersection on a corridor with no sidewalks. Our online photos prove the point. Recent development traffic has already damaged the area's infrastructure, adding another unaligned. Well, I just hope that you listen tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Greg is up, and we have Patty Davies on deck. Will please refrain from clapping.
Greg Hatayama, last name Hatayama. I live at 11721 West 52nd, which is the agricultural property directly adjacent to the property in question. and I work there too, I guess. So yeah, live, work in Wheat Ridge. Just before the timer gets going, I just wanted to say thank you, council, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for providing a public forum. The culture is challenging, I think, to participate in. I feel really nervous for some reason, and I just wanted to voice the fact that it takes courage to speak, and I appreciate the time and the openness to speak here. We can start the timer. Wheat Ridge is indeed a really good city with a lot of really good people, with lots of deep roots. I think my comments in opposition are around the fact that these zoning changes will stay with the land, and also that it will affect just even the trees on the borders of the property for decades to come. We might plant trees in the buffer and they won't be mature for 30 to 40 years. If you look at the design, you'll see that there's a road right next to the fence. Maybe there's a 5-foot agricultural or a 5-foot landscaping buffer, but I'm not really even sure what that looks like because I haven't seen a plan for it. I would encourage the council to take the time to ask to see what that would look like with the fence, how high that fence is, what that would do to the existing mature trees. Is there going to be grading that's going to affect the roots of those trees? We've talked to the CSU extension, and we found that, you know, if you look at a tree, what you don't see is the same amount of tree under the ground. So having a road 5 feet from our fence would drastically impact those deep roots. I see that it's red, appreciate that, and I really do want to encourage the council to continue this dialogue, both with the members in this room, with the developers themselves. Please ask Wes and Franklin questions that can't be answered from their website. I really want to know more about what that cross-section of that land looks like, particularly in relationship to the trees, the space, and the roadway, which kind of looks like a racetrack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have Patty Davies up and then Andre Baruchia on deck.
My name is Patty Davies. I live at 5210 Tabor Street. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My husband and I purchased our home in the fall of 2013. Our single-story ranch home directly borders the proposed development. Over the past 6 years, more than 657 homes and residential units have been built within a 2-mile radius of Rainbow Ridge in both Arvada and Wheat Ridge. Our neighborhood, including our Wheat Ridge neighbors, have already experienced extensive property damage associated with this increased traffic, including struck light poles, destroyed landscape boulders, crushed park benches and medians, and damaged retaining walls. Approving an unaligned, high-density access loop would compound these existing traffic and safety concerns. The loop road does not appear to be required by any service provider, including water, fire, or Excel. This was confirmed by the fire marshal himself. Adding up to 18 homes, potentially with ADUs, will increase vehicle trips. A typical single-family household averages approximately 5 to 6 vehicle trips per day. This proposed development will then generate more than 60 trips daily. The existing light rail station does not provide access to grocery stores, hospitals, or recreational facilities, so they would still require vehicles for these trips. The proposed ODP layout places 2 entry drives in close proximity to each other, with Swadley Street directly to the south. This concentration of 5 tight intersections within a 2-block distance, plus 2 additional driveway access points, raises concerns regarding site distance, turning conflicts, speeding, emergency access, pedestrian safety, and traffic spillover. A particular concern is the school bus stop located at 52nd and Swadley, where the kids congregate to wait for the bus. The safety concerns with the increase in traffic on our small residential roads are significant. The 52nd Avenue and Tabor Street 4-way stop is already a safety concern, with most vehicles failing to consistently stop. Ideally, the development would utilize the existing Swadley Street access rather than introduce the proposed loop road, while still incorporating the other protections and conditions outlined above. A less dense development of 5 to 8 homes could be easily managed with 1 access road.
Thank you.
One last point, the ODP provides no extra visitor parking on site for the homes proposed. This must be required because of the impacts all these extra vehicles parking on the side streets will impact not only Wheat Ridge, but our Arvada homes. and respectfully ask you to vote no on the current ODP until further fundamental safety, scale, and compatibility standards are mandated and that you require enforceable conditions addressing this impact. Thank you.
Thank you. We have, please refrain from clapping and that. Andre Brucia is up and John W. is on deck.
You got a pass on the first with my wife, with my last name, so appreciate it. No, Andre Barusha, B-A-R-R-U-T-I-A. I do not live in Wheat Ridge, nor do I work in Wheat Ridge, but my property borders this development. So, hello, my name's Andre Barusha. I live at 5250 Tabor Street in Rainbow Ridge. Our backyard directly borders this proposed rezoning. My concern tonight, and Patty just mentioned some of it, but is specifically around parking. Because after reviewing the plan, I do not believe that the current ODP clearly resolves how parking demand will be accommodated. The staff says parking requirements will match the city's base residential districts, and the guest parking may be required at the discretion of the director. But the ODP does not identify a specific number or location of guest parking spaces. That becomes especially important in this jurisdiction's own parking code. For a new single unit homes, the requirement is 2 spaces per dwelling when the state parking or when the street parking is available, but 4 spaces per dwelling when it's not. So for 18 homes, that's a difference between 36 and 72 required parking spaces. That the conceptual plan identifies the circulation area as a private drive, and the ODP itself says exact dimensions and quantities will be determined later through the SPD. That leaves an important parking question that is unresolved. And if parking cannot be accommodated within the development plan, the demand does not disappear and it moves on to West 52nd, which we've called out several safety concerns, Tabor Street and surrounding neighborhood streets. Those streets already have limited pedestrian infrastructure, and additional parked vehicles can reduce visibility, safety, and usable road space. I respectfully ask Council, Mayor, that you deny this proposal. We need a clearer understanding to identify which parking standards apply and demonstrate on the plan where the required resident and guest parking could actually be accommodated. Thank you.
Thank you. John, I'm going to let you pronounce that last name. And Olivia Oliver is on deck.
John Wabashevich, WABISZZEWICZ. And I live at 12064 West 54th Drive in Arvada, and I do work in Wheat Ridge. My comments here is that the neighborhood, and I've submitted them on the Wheat Ridge Speaks, a PDF presentation. I don't believe the neighborhood here is here to stop development. We realize that this is going to be developed along with other adjacent parcels within Rainbow Ridge. Planning presentation, the presentation that was on YouTube that I watched last night shows that 3.62 dwelling units per acre, 18 units over 4.97 acres, which includes not only the road, but also the open space as well as the dwelling units. Compared to Rainbow Ridge, which is the adjacent neighborhood to the west, 117 units over 48 acres, well, including the open space and the roads. An apples to apples comparison is a difference of 48.5%. I don't believe that to be harmonizing with the neighborhood to the west from a density perspective. Peaceful coexistence in height. The city standard here, or what that is being proposed, is 35 feet. This has also been submitted in my package. 13 different pictures of single-family homes as well as townhomes along 52nd and Tabor, where the height is clearly much lower than 35 feet. And from a land use development and planning perspective, what precedence does it set to have height that goes from tall and transitions into low as it is right now and jumping back up to tall? I don't care about grading. A 10-foot basketball hoop is 10 feet, whether it's in New York or if it's in Denver. And then widening the buffer, the 5-foot buffer, the neighbors and myself do not believe that is enough. It should be 15 feet. And we do believe that a solid fence should be placed between the properties. And looking at this, not much has changed since January of 2024. 18 single unit dwellings, 18 today. A perimeter driveway with 2 entrances at that neighborhood meeting from those notes from the Planning Commission. An undisclosed boundary to a 5-foot landscape boundary, and a TBD fence to a proposed 6-foot fence. I summed it up in the conditions for approval. I believe this should be approved, but with the appropriate conditions. And I've also included in the submission a submission that could be potentially be utilized by the city council to do so. I appreciate your time. I know this isn't an easy process for everyone, trying to balance the needs for everybody, and appreciate your time and consideration and listening to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Olivia Oliver's up, and then Danielle Dunn is on deck.
Good evening, council members. I'm also nervous. I'm Olivia Oliver, Oliver. I live on Tabor Street in Arvada. My husband and I purchased our home last June, and we directly back up to the proposed development. We did our homework, and what we came to understand was primarily confusion. The project's definition changes depending on who's being asked to approve it. Imagine our surprise when, in our research, we found the applicant's own website, wrsvillage.wordpress.com, which completely contradicts all of the plans on the city's website. I've printed a copy of that website at its current state and submitted it to the clerk for record. Don't take my word for it, you can take theirs. The ordinance says up to 18 single-family dwellings. The applicant's website, updated this past December, says 14. And here's what the website advertises for the open spaces on the lot: a ballet studio and homeschool farm school welcoming families from outside, a common house coffee shop and restaurant described somehow as non-commercial, a skating rink, a riding arena in competition to the existing riding arena, barn dances, festivals, a corn maze. At the north end, directly behind our homes, where we were told nothing could be built due to water access issues, a bathing pool and a frog pond. No water rights, but a pond and a pool. I understand the website is not the application. That's exactly the problem. If those uses aren't permitted under this ODP, they're advertising something they can't build. If they are permitted, they were never analyzed. Your traffic study concluded that there are fewer than 20 trips in a peak hour. One ballet class letting out is more than 20 trips. Lost my spot. Either way, this record isn't ready for a permanent rezone. Your own review criteria, section 26303, I gotta speed up, tells you that there would be no significant adverse effects. I disagree. We've been told this was reduced from 49 units. I cannot find that plan online. That means that this is either a sales tactic or it should be in the record proposed as 49 units initially.
Thank you.
So, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Danielle Dunn is up, and Patience Stevens is on deck.
My name's Danielle Dunn, D-U-N-N. I live at 5310 Tabor Street. My house directly borders the race car perimeter, and my 2-year-old will be playing less than 5 feet from that road. All right. I'm here because this proposal fails the city's own standards. This is not simply a disgruntled neighbor's opinion. It's valid concerns grounded in evidence and numbers, and it deserves to be taken seriously. The scale of the ODP has a serious compatibility concern. The plan shows 18 homes, but it allows 80 units on each home. This means each site allows up to 36 units plus additional community structures. That's actually the density that staff had recommended against. The physical scale is also significant. There are 5,000 square foot lots with 40% lot coverage over 3 stories, which actually allows 6,000 square feet. That's twice, double the size of all the surrounding neighbors. Height is a real concern. The homes reach 35 feet. That's 25% taller than the surrounding neighborhoods. While the developers suggest that slope and measurement differences reduce that gap, if you look at elevation data, that shows a different story. And then when you add on grading, they're effectively the same elevation. The height difference is real and can't be written away. Haskins Station shows that compatibility can be addressed. When Where our neighborhood is bordered with Haskin Station, the homes are one story. That is a compatible transition. That is what peaceful coexistence looks like in practice and what we want. It also is important to consider the adverse effects on health, safety, and quality of life surrounding it. That includes things like privacy, sunlight, mature trees, road, all the things we've mentioned. These are foreseeable impacts, and they have not been studied. The absence of analysis does not mean that they can be assumed away. When you put this all together, the conclusion is clear. These are design choices, not unavoidable constraints. Choices that prioritize density and development potential over peaceful coexistence and community welfare. You are voting on whether this proposal meets the city's criteria. Maximizing the project or its financial feasibility is not one of them.
Thank you.
This site cannot be developed. This site can be developed, but with less density, lower heights, and better transitions to the neighborhood. We are not against it. We just want something compatible. Thank you.
Thank you. Patience Stevens is up and Matthew Dunn on deck.
I'm Patience Stevens, FTE-ENF. Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. I live in Golden. I recreate heavily in Wheat Ridge. I am here tonight representing the horses and equestrians, both on and off these sensitive creatures at adjoining Hidden Lane Stables. My comments center on health and safety. The prior Planning Commission's approval motion includes that rezoning and development would contribute to public health and safety. I submit to you that there are no concrete examples of how public health and safety are contributed to by this development. I respectfully submit that rezoning and development is to the detriment of health and safety of local residents, two- and four-legged alike, as well as to non-local constituents. From the equestrian perspective, rezoning agricultural to residential is patently antithetical. Absent a vote from you, gentle people, not to rezone and to preserve what can be preserved, assuring appropriate peaceful coexistence enactments will contribute to the safety and consequent health of horse and rider. These enactments include, and I emphasize prior to any building or clearing, a developer-funded minimum 15-foot landscape buffer and solid privacy fence. A 6 to 7 foot fence height is suggested. I endorse a minimum of 8 feet at least along the outdoor riding arena. If you haven't sat on the back of a 16-hand horse lately, his back is already 5.5 feet off the ground. Add his neck and head height and his binocular vision as a prey animal, and he will let you know that he doesn't like things in the form of a spook, a bolt, or another evasive action, none of which are safe for horse or rider. There is already enough urban activity, noise, and traffic that spooks these flight animals. More, longer, louder, and closer urban noise, etc., will add to horse and rider stress, particularly during the building phase.
Thank you.
Common sense and caring should ask that a 15-foot landscape buffer, not just grass, and a very high solid fence as an act of voluntarism should be enacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Dunn is up, and then Sarah Tehama is up next.
Hello. My name is Matthew Dunn. I live at 5310 Tabor Street. I do not work in Wheat Ridge, and my property borders the Swartley development directly. Good evening, council members, and Mr. Mayor. For more than 2 years, this proposal has faced sustained and documented opposition, as evident by the number of residents in attendance tonight, including a valid rezoning protest, the nearly 70 formal comments in opposition, and not a single current neighborhood resident has spoken in support of this proposal. The people most directly impacted by this decision have spoken clearly. We are the residents whose homes back up to this property, whose businesses and streets will be affected, and who will live with the consequences long after the construction is complete. Our concerns are based on the approval criteria and how the evidence before you does not support that approval criteria. Despite years of feedback, the developer has not made any meaningful changes to address neighborhood concerns. While they may point to the reduction in buildings, which was at 40, the plan still allows up to 18 homes, 18 ADUs, and a community building. The requirement is on the developer to promote peaceful coexistence and demonstrate that adverse effects will not occur. However, the developer fails to meet these requirements with this plan. This proposal appears focused on maximizing development yield rather than addressing an unmet community need. The need for additional housing in the community has already been addressed nearby at Haskins Stations and with the other development in the surrounding areas. Ultimately, the community does not need nor want the addition of these homes. However, we are not opposed to development, and if development must be done, we are asking for a development that is compatible with the existing neighborhood through reduced density, similar homes of size, a traditional road design, and a meaningful landscape buffer of at least 15 feet. The impact of this project on Wheat Ridge as a whole is negligible, but the impact on the adjacent residents will be permanent. Criterion 1 requires a finding that the rezoning promotes the general
Thank you.
welfare of the community. Based on the evidence of the overwhelming neighborhood opposition, that finding cannot reasonably be met. I respectfully ask that you say no to this proposal or require meaningful changes to the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Hatema is up, and Joy Henderson is on deck.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Hatayama, Hatayama. I own the barn immediately to the east of the proposed building. It is an agricultural area. It is still in use. Changing the zoning seriously impacts not only my my business, my livelihood, but truly affects the safety of the over 100, some of whom are here today showing their support, or I guess not support of the rezoning. They come to this barn for a safe haven. They come to the horses for, some respite in a busy world as a means of exercise. It is my job as the barn owner to keep those 100-some people safe, all ages 5 through 80. When there are fast-moving cars without an adequate fence, without a buffer, the horses spook, people fall off. We've had numerous falls just within our urban area because of the garbage truck at the end of the road. We do our best to mitigate these effects. We know the schedules. We keep the horses out of that area. Having unpredictable and constant traffic moving on the side with that road so close, with the loop road, is just, it's contrary to my my business sense. We kindly ask that you consider not rezoning to keep the agricultural status of Wheat Ridge. This could be a fantastic open space park. You can already build 7 houses on the lot as it stands without rezoning. If the zoning is to go through, I would really like to know more about what that fence looks like. A 6-foot fence is nothing. That's what keeps the horses in. It does not keep the distractions out. We really need something like an 8-foot fence, a 15-foot buffer. It's just simply not safe, and I am very concerned for my business and the welfare of the people that are in our area. I'm also very concerned about the details of the plan. I know we're told that the drainage won't be an issue, and I see that my time is up. So I thank you for your consideration. Please consider not rezoning this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy Henderson is up, and then Ross Fellenstein is on deck.
Hi, Joy Henderson, Henderson, and I'm at 5345 Tabor, not in Wheat Ridge, but in Arvada. I am in the Rainbow Ridge neighborhood. Echo everything that my neighbors have said. We aren't against development. We just want it done in a right, thoughtful, and peacefully coexistent way, and not damaging the finances of the neighborhood that's already there. And that's what I'm here to bring up. Mature trees add to the value of houses. This is well known and backed by the USDA Forest Service research. The 5-foot buffer would just be for bushes. There's existing mature trees there. The road, the construction, we talked with CSU, and the construction itself, the compaction of the dirt, really, especially with a clay underground, the roots are closer to the surface, and it could exhibit damage on the trees that wouldn't be seen for years to come. So this would financially impact the neighbors. The trees are important. The 35-foot especially with current designs, often putting patios on the rooftop would look directly down into the neighborhood. A 6 foot, a 7 foot fence, nothing like that would keep people from looking right down into the neighborhoods next door. So we really need mature trees lining that. You can't do that on 5 feet. A 15-foot buffer would allow for more trees to be planted and create a more substantial buffer between the neighborhood and the road. The road, the sidewalk, they're all concrete. They create heat. They bounce noise. They bounce light, the street lights, and this is all a change and not a peaceful coexistence to transition into the neighborhood. I just want to, oh God, I'm red. So I appreciate your time, and I hope that you consider all of everything that we are saying in your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ross Valenstein is up, and Stan Armstrong is on deck.
Good morning, or good afternoon. I'm Ross Valenstein. I'm in Rainbow Ridge, and I wanted to say real quickly, as you probably know, that's a jagged edge there between Wheat Ridge and Arvada. And Officer Fisher, I think, crossed that border a lot, doing some of his work. And the Arvada Police and Fire Department, I think, serve Wheat Ridge. We are a neighborhood. And I think you'd be very proud, a lot of Wheat Ridge people in the audience, of your constituents here today, and how they are not anti-development. They're not the type of people to say, not my backyard, we know this is going to be developed. But this particular plan, for a variety of reasons, and I'm going to harp on, and these guys have made a lot of great points, but the racetrack style driveway, I think, is there to augment their challenges in getting as much housing in there as they can, and to get as much profit as they can. It's not at all conducive to, you've got some code here that reads, proposed street layouts shall provide for the continuation of existing platted streets or in the surrounding area. All public streets shall be designed and constructed according to the city's current design and construction standards. I think on the face of it, you can tell this is not in compliance for any kind of peaceful coexistence. They are, again, doing this for probably to pack in some additional housing. I think there's a delightful development that could happen with slightly fewer, that would still be very profitable, slightly fewer homes in there. But hidden stables, I hope you've gotten the flavor for our neighbor there. They're valuable to us. And it really messes up their business, a Wheat Ridge business. And that racetrack style loop goes along back lines, back property lines. That's a driveway, and we don't have fast trash trucks, snow removal, the noise that's going to come from that. There's no way you can consider that a buffer. These guys have actually called it a buffer, and that's an insult. There's no way that's a buffer when you look at what asphalt does to heat, light, noise. It ruins a neighborhood. And again, we are neighbors, and I do appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. Stan Armstrong, and then Bet Bushel is on deck.
I've already submitted my comments, so thank you.
Thank you. And we have, okay, thank you. Ganny Duncan? Gary, sorry. Those are cursive R's. And Colleen McClary is on deck.
Thank you for the opportunity. Gary Duncan, D-U-N-C-A-N. I don't live in Wheat Ridge. I live in Rainbow Ridge, but I certainly have done a ton of work in Wheat Ridge with many of your clients. There was a similar proposal behind my property with a similar buffer and a 35-foot ceiling. I had a professional light study done. Here's what they found. They found that it resulted in up to 42 hours of less sunlight over the course of a month. That's nearly 2 days a month. Over the course of a year, that's, read my writing here, that's over 24 hours, 24 8-hour days a year of lost sunlight. So my request is that before this is approved with the 35-foot limit, at least a light study should be done to see what happens to those adjacent neighbors. Secondly is the traffic. I think all of us understand how difficult traffic is throughout the city. The proposal that you guys approved, the parallel apartments just a couple blocks down the street on Tabor, has increased an unbelievable amount of traffic through our neighborhood. People driving through to get to Ward Road and up to 58 because there's not easy access. Secondly, we live in a neighborhood that does not have sidewalks. The number of people walking our narrow streets and dogs defecating in our yards, and that may sound minor, but this really does impact the neighborhood more significantly than you could possibly realize. And please forgive me for saying this, RTD is a joke. Their own website shows ridership is down year after year, even on the gold line. So traffic is an issue. The light rail is not alleviating the traffic problems as people had proposed.
Thank you.
I know, can I make one? Housing is difficult, but we all support the Wheat Ridge merchants. We're asking you to support us on this. Please deny this until more amenable and compatible proposal is made. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen McClary. Okay, thank you. And our last speaker tonight is Mr. DiGiacomo.
Okay, once again, Ascenzo DiGiacomo, ASCENZO. I had some remarks prepared for a 3-minute speech. It's unfortunate I wasn't able to do that, Mayor. But I come here today with the comfort of knowing that this council and 3 members will do the right thing and deny this application based on the many grounds that have been presented to you by the homeowners, their comments, and our planning analysis that you saw hopefully in your email. I offer you a very simple but important thought to ponder that you need to consider tonight. I ask you, what if this project was proposed in your backyard? I want to just fast forward. I have comments in rebuttal to the staff presentation about 10 items that I think that contradicts some of the things that are in the plan that she sort of glazed over and kind of made you feel real warm and fuzzy about that I think really need to be addressed. And I don't even have time, unfortunately, to mention those. And those are not in my letter. But I want to mention one thing here that's really, really important, is that and it's number 1 on my letter. They provided a lot orientation that is north-south, okay? I want you guys to look at that plan. I just made a sketch and I forgot to bring it up, but that means that they're saying that the front setback is either on the north or the south side of every lot that they've proposed. That is absolutely, completely incongruous with anything in the planning profession. So they're saying that a 15-foot setback from the front property line of each individual lot is on the north or south side of their property. That right there is enough information and a consideration to deny this project. You are leaving yourself open to legal protest as you define it in your land use code because of that in particular. In other words, the lot setbacks, front, rear, and side, are all discombobulated because they're saying that the front setback is existing on the north or south side of the lot. It just doesn't make any sense. That is a really, really big issue that you guys need to consider tonight. And I don't care if you continue and then talk about it and see, but if that's the case, if they try to do that, there is no way this development will work.
Thank you.
Because it doesn't meet your code standards of what a front setback is.
Thank you.
I have many more things to say. It's really unfortunate that the opposing parties don't get a chance to present, like, the staff does, and like other municipalities in the region, like Arvada and other municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you. We have nobody else signed to speak tonight, so we'll go to questions from council. Councilor Wood.
I have a few specific questions to ask about the ODP itself, and I don't know if these are questions that staff would answer or if they're questions that the applicant would answer, but I'll just, first of all, I do have questions about the loop road. I want to understand it a little bit better. I'm wondering, what's the width of the road? Is it two directions? Is it one direction? And I guess maybe overall, I kind of want to understand, could the development be done if it wasn't with the outside loop road? And was that ever something that was looked at?
Sure. So for ODP level, we don't require them an actual dimension of the roadway. However, for fire to be able to serve the development, they require at least 24-foot wide. It's potential to up to 30-foot wide depending on water service requirements and their separation. And in terms of the loop, when they were proposing a single access point, the water and fire district confirmed that they would not be able to serve the rear portion of the development. I believe, and this is their district requirements, so don't quote me on this, but I believe it was about 600 feet is where that's about the farthest single line road can go to service utilities, and at that point they have to loop it. So with this property being about 1,000 feet long, there's about 300 feet that wouldn't be able to be served by utilities on the rear portion.
Could they be served if it were? I'm not going to ask that. I think I understand what you're telling me, so thank you. And then I have a question about the fence itself. It seemed like, as I read through all of the materials, the staff report, the comments, that a solid fence is proposed along the perimeter. Is that right?
It is required, yes.
And then in response to the comments we heard tonight about the sensitivity along the horse property to the east, is an 8-foot fence a possibility, or is that something that would not fit in with Wheat Ridge code?
We do not allow for 8-foot without variances. However, they could do a berm or something similar to that to work with that neighbor. And they did put in the ODP to require horse safe fencing on that side. So minimum 6 feet, but there's potential with berming and other noise mitigation measures to help that.
All right, thank you. I may have other questions later, but that's it for now. Thank you.
Councilor Okada.
Thank you. I wanted to go a little bit deeper with the fencing. So the code allowance on 6 foot, the variance that would be required in order to go above 6 feet, that would be kind of after the fact on the zoning approval, right? So like if we were to require 8 foot, 7.5, 7.2, whatever fencing height, then the variance would be coming along after the fact, right?
It can be incorporated into an ODP, but a variance is typically justified with that criteria, and we have not evaluated that request.
Got it. Thank you. I do want to ask kind of procedurally, if we do, as a council, go down the process of wanting to add additional conditions to this zone change, what would that look like?
I will turn it to Dahl for that.
The review process for PRDs specifically says that council, upon the recommendation of the planning commission, acts to approve with conditions, or deny. So this is the outline development plan. You've got the authority under the code to approve with conditions, if that's what you would do. And to respond directly to your question, that in the past, and I would recommend, likely takes the form of an approval motion approving the ordinance with the PRD with following conditions, and then you list those. In the past, when that has been necessary for a complicated application or one where the conditions need to be thought about, typically what I have recommended is council has that discussion, staff takes a lot of notes about conditions, And then we put that list together, usually during a recess, so we can get them written up. And then when the motion is proposed, typically I recommend if there's more than just one condition, that there be a base motion, a motion to approve, and then you don't vote on that and you start taking up motions to amend to include a condition. So motion to approve this PRD, are there amendments? Motion to add a fence, motion to change the width of the buffer. But each one of those gets voted on and either gets on the motion or doesn't get on the motion. When you're done running through all the conditions council's interested in, then you've got a motion with whatever conditions got individually approved, and that motion can get voted on. So sorry for that long explanation. But if council's interested in conditions, be making notes, and when we get to sort of action level, we can determine if it's necessary for staff and I to recess and write some up for your consideration.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have more questions, but I'm just going to limit myself to one more right now. The limit of 18 homes is a part of the proposal that we have before us, but repeatedly we've heard 14. We've seen 14 on the plan. Why would we make it 18 if we've only ever heard 14?
So they have ranged throughout the time with us, and basically when it was higher, we said the most we would support is 18, and that's where that number came from.
Gotcha. But we haven't heard any intentions to go beyond 14 to go
That's
to 18?
correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Counselor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to ask about the buffer that we've heard about quite a bit this evening. When I look at the drawings in the packet, I see indication of a 15-foot buffer that includes a 5-foot landscape buffer. And in the drawing, it looks like it goes from this 15-foot buffer with the fence, the landscape buffer, and then I'm not sure where that remaining 10-foot is accounted for. And then it goes to the road before the plot. Can you give us some more details of how that actually breaks down?
Sure. So that's actually a setback versus a buffer. So the 15-foot is a required setback from the sides. And actually, if they increase above, like each additional story requires additional 5 feet. So look at those development standards on the first page of the ODP. But the landscape buffer itself with plantings is 5-foot requirement.
And is that within the setback, or is
It
that
is
in
within
addition?
the setbacks.
So of that 15-foot setback, there's 5 feet of landscape. What
Required.
would the other 10 feet
Right,
be?
but you could not get a building closer than 15
Okay.
feet.
Do we know what would be in those 10 feet? Would it be lawn?
Either drive or landscaping.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is that setback on the house side of the road? So the road is on the outside and then the setback with the 5-foot.
There are 2 separate setbacks. There's a perimeter setback requirement of 15 feet. So that's from the lot lines, the overall lot lines, perimeter. And then there's an internal lot setback for those homes that are within the lot itself at 5 foot from the side, on that side that's next to Rainbow Ridge, 20 feet from the 52nd Avenue parallel side.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. The first one is for Mr. Dole. If we reduced the charter approved 35 feet tall to 28, would that be considered a taking?
Well, to begin with, the 35 feet in the charter that's an overall limitation. So, and I know you know that. So, yes, it would mean that there's less developability, or the less density that could be, bulk more accurately, that could be built. The taking is always in the end determined by a district court judge. If there's some kind of lawsuit saying, okay, you've reduced the value of my property to the point where I can't make a reasonable economic return. 28 feet is probably still a reasonable economic return. And I think the council's decision to do that, as long as it was supported with reasoning and justification for the reason the height was required to be reduced in this planned residential development would be sustainable and be certainly defensible to a district court judge. There's no way, of course, I can say and answer your question tonight what that judge would do, but that's how I would articulate the council's basis for a reduction in height.
And then my next questions are for staff. What is the what is the width of the road on the east and west sides? And is it a one-way travel?
Yes, so we do not definitively know that at this point. We know that the ODP establishes what the access has to look like circulation-wise and the network, but it doesn't determine the width. However, to Councilmember Wood's question, the width of the drive has to be at least 24 feet for fire access. So that'll be the minimum, and that would accommodate a two-way traffic drive.
Was there a consideration of a turnaround for fire, like a bulb?
We tried that initially, and it wouldn't serve the full property. So you had about 300 feet in the back of the lot.
How much was that?
About 300 feet in the
Okay.
rear, and the lot is about 200 wide.
And then do you know what the DU per acre for the subject property is? Based on
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The dwelling units per acre, for this
For
property
this-
based on the 18.
For this property, based on the 18, it was 3.7 as a net calculation, I believe, in the 8 dwelling unit per acre range when you take out the open space tracks.
And then what is the approximate DU per acre of Rainbow Ridge that's adjacent?
At 7,500 square foot lots, that comes to a 5.8 dwelling unit per acre.
So it's more dense?
That's what their zoning would allow for.
Right, but I'm just asking, which is more dense, the Rainbow Ridge as it is, or the proposed?
Rainbow Ridge,
Okay.
by our calculation.
And then there's a lot of talk.
Please.
And then what is the typical, there's a lot of talk about high density. What is the typical DU per acre for high density?
From planning practice, that's beyond 8 dwelling units per acre, typically even greater than 12.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor, or Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen.
Thank you. I appreciate several questions I had have been asked. What's nice about waiting a little bit, let you guys ask all the hard questions. I do have a process question. I mean, this is a really long application process. And I'm really aware that when we look at the filing date of January of 2024, we were actually operating under a different comprehensive plan at the time. And so I'm just curious, since this project initiated, we have updated and adopted a new comprehensive plan or city plan. So I'm just curious how that process and adoption has been reflected as part of the application process and conversations with both the developer and the surrounding community, as our own standards have gone into a little bit of a different evaluation form.
It's a great question. It actually made our review a little bit easier in the sense that we had more to review against. So the city plan gave us more guidance on form and use tools. It encouraged those setbacks, the step backs, the buffers, the peaceful coexistence, right? We didn't have that before in the comprehensive plan. Basically, our old plan just said it's a neighborhood, it can be a neighborhood. Didn't give us any guidance on density, any of that. And it also, now the city plan gives us that moderate variety place type to look at. So it gave us a lot more guidance and was definitely incorporated into our review as soon as we knew what the city plan was telling us to do.
Great. And then remind me with the ADUs, is that a use by right with with an equivalent zoning of residential one?
Yeah, ADUs are permitted in with any single unit detached home in Wheat Ridge, and I think it's a state requirement that we allow that.
Yep. So it's not unique to this development. It's
Correct.
just, okay, those are my 2 questions for now. I might have more. Thanks.
Counselor Larson.
And thank you, Mayor. And as we've heard a couple of times tonight, the northern city boundary line between Arvada and Wheat Ridge Does look like the back of an alligator, kind of goes up and down, and there are plenty of areas in there that are also unincorporated Jefferson County. And when we look at the sort of 4 or 5 blocks in any direction from what the site we're talking about, we do have all 3 jurisdictions. We have gotten a lot of comments today, and from the beginning, there's been a lot of interest in this development, this idea of a development. Most of the comments, though, are coming from people that do not live in Wheat Ridge. Have we gotten anybody from Wheat Ridge to comment on this property?
We have the neighboring horse property. It's
And we have the new development there. Councilmember Okada is a resident of the Toll Brothers. That is within the transit-oriented district. Does this property fall in that as well?
It does not. It's just outside of that boundary. So it's close. It's within a mile of the Arvada Ridge Station and a half mile of the Wheat Ridge Station.
So it wouldn't fall under those sort of zoning.
Just outside, but the city plan does call for transitional, so like bringing more housing towards the stations.
And what is the current use of that property?
Well, it's zoned agricultural too. It's primarily just used as a house right now, but there are a couple barns that were built in the.
Does
30s.
anybody actually live there?
Yes,
Okay, so the houses there are occupied.
that's correct.
And the question about ADUs that was just asked, how many, the city of Wheat Ridge has changed its zoning ordinances to allow accessory dwelling units for about the past 4 or maybe 5 years. Have we gotten a lot of requests for ADUs?
There's a decent amount, yes.
I'm sorry?
There's a decent amount, yes.
Oh, there is?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Yes.
so there is the potential for this use by right on these properties?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
And then there's been mention of a possible health hazard with the neighboring equestrian facility. There, when you go on the other side of I-70 and that area from Kipling to Tabor, between 48th and the highway, there are considerable number of horse facilities there. Has the issue of health, either for the horses or the neighbors, has that ever come up before?
It has not particularly, no, but it would be something we'd be looking at with the specific development plan to make sure they're.
Because there are,
cohesive.
and I drive by there quite frequently, there are at least 24 different horse facilities in that area. So I really can't, well, okay. And then, okay, asked about transit oriented. So I had a couple other, but you know what, let's go ahead and move on. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Snow.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple questions about the water. Well, I have one question about water so far. What water district would this be part of?
So it's a Valley Water District, but they're governed by Denver water rules and regulations.
Got it. Thank you. And then a couple of points were made about trees. It sounds like CSU came out and did like a study, and it seems like also that was from the residents asking for that. Is the developer, I can't find any notes about the
We typically don't allow audience responses, but no. Go ahead.
So I'm not aware of the tree study. However, the applicant did do a tree survey, and there are requirements on the ODP to preserve the viable existing trees. So they would have to work the roadway around the existing trees that the tree survey shows that are viable.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for right now. I may have more. Thanks.
Okay. Counselor Quinn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Number one, thanks for everybody coming down. Appreciate your time.
going through all this. One question I have, I'm still really unclear because there's the road width. And I know you said you can't be, it's going to be at least 24, but you have the 5 foot and you said the 15 foot, it's part of the back setback, but then we have the road. So I'm sorry if I'm being difficult
Sure.
or dumb, but please.
No.
Please walk me
I totally
through that.
completely understand. So the 5-foot buffer is all you're gonna see as a requirement that can't contain roadway. So very likely you'll see the 5 feet and then you'll see the roadway start after that 5-foot buffer. You cannot have buildings within 15 feet of the property line. So if the roadway got reconfigured, but still somehow maintained like the circulation network that the ODP calls for, there could be potentially a building with, up to that 15-foot mark, but you're not going to see, but most likely you're going to see the roadway come right after the 5-foot buffer, then the roadway, and then the building's internal.
So, sorry, I went to Alameda High School and I'm trying to do math in my head. So we have 5 foot, then we have a 15-foot, the setback's 15 foot, 5 foot of it is a buffer. So that leaves 10 foot, but the roadway is going to be 24. So it's it's going to be a lot more than 15 feet, the setback, basically from the side.
That's
is
correct.
what you
Yeah,
said.
the way that they think they're designing it, which we haven't reviewed an SDP yet, it would be 5-foot buffer with landscape plantings, 24-foot drive, most likely, maybe up to 30. Then the house lots on the inside, and those have an additional 5-foot setback from that line. So you're looking at least 35 feet from house to the next property line.
From house to
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, correct.
Which throws me to my next question is the lot, the little, where it has all the different little setback things. Where is the 20-foot setback going to be?
That is the line parallel to 52nd Avenue. That's what our code requires a front setback be taken from.
So all of those lots are going to be a 20-foot set, whatever the setback is, 20 foot from,
The south property line.
so the south property is always going to have that setback.
Correct.
That's weird. Okay.
It is weird. I agree.
That's different. And so I grew up with horses myself, and I realized they are weirdos. And from what I heard from Okada, Councilor Okada's question is a condition we could have to make that an 8-foot or larger fence, wall, whatever we want to call it. That would be, could we make that a condition instead of a variance?
That is possible. ODPs can incorporate variations from code.
Okay, because I know horses are interesting creatures, and they like to eat barns and fences. So, thanks, that's all I have for right now.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm not trying to design on the dais, but would it be possible, I know we don't know the width of the road, but would it be possible to make the road, the first question is one way. If we made it one way on the north side, have the necessary width for fire department compliant width.
I'm going to bring our
okay.
engineer up for that one.
Yeah, I don't know if does that make sense? So
Yeah, I
I'm
get what
thinking
you're
like
saying.
whatever the minimum width for the road is, if it's 12 feet.
So the issue is more Denver Water than the fire department driving all these things. So when you have a water line going through a slot like that, they require at least 30 feet of hardscape. They either have the drive plus a sidewalk or something. So like they have really stringent requirements. That's probably driving the design of this whole site, is really what it is. So even if you do have a one-way drive that's narrower, you still need a certain amount of hardscape there for the Denver Water easement for access, which is the biggest issue.
Yeah, that's a little something I didn't know. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. I think it might be helpful just to touch on what would we be seeing in the next phase of this? I know we've talked about this first phase of what we're looking at is setting forth the requirements on the ground, lot lights, setbacks, all of that. A lot of the things we're talking about might be things that would be addressed in the next phase of this process. So could you maybe talk about what is, what would we expect to see there that is being brought up tonight? And what is the involvement of staff and council in determining those? And what does that process look like?
Sure. So specific development plan stage is the next stage if the zoning goes through, and it is a site plan level. It also requires civil construction drawings, so you're getting down to the very detailed design of everything, including drainage report, traffic analysis, and civil construction plans. So it's as detailed as it gets. That specific development plan does go to planning commission for a public hearing in a plan development, but it would not come to council.
Okay, and the public would be able to provide input
That is true,
then?
yes.
Okay. I think that I have more sort of procedural questions. The one-way road question that Counselor Ohm just asked about, I mean, we've heard concerns about the noise impact of adding the loop road. And this is more sort of comment, but being able to look into that seems important, both from the egress and ingress on the site with the concerns that we're hearing about the two entry points coming into the site. But I think that's it for my questions.
Thank you. Councilor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to thank Councilmember Quinn for kind of repeating my question because I was still confused. So thanks for walking us through the buffer, the road, the setback process. Would expanding that buffer from 5 feet to 7 feet, 10 feet, is that something that could possibly be an add-on to the ODP?
It is possible, but the balance of that is that you then reduce the usable open space tracks that are in the center.
Okay, thank you. Also, I just want to confirm I understood when Councilmember Quinn was asking about the setbacks, and because of the orientation of the property with the lots facing inward, what is visually the front of the house is not the front of the lot. It is the south side, it is the front. So that will always have a 20-foot setback, and that's each individual lot, not just the one to the most south.
That is correct. Every single lot. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a code requirement. So for
Okay.
any subdivision, neighborhood subdivision like this that has a roadway going up the middle, all of those front setbacks are taken from the street side.
And that's the main 52nd Street.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
The public street.
And that includes, that's a 20-foot setback on the south side, and then the sides and rear is each 5 foot, and that includes any potential accessory dwelling unit and the original or the
Yes.
primary home.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Wood.
I also have some questions about orientation because it does seem unusual to me. Thanks to Councilmember Martell, I have a better understanding, but a couple more questions. So then access from the property would be from the road itself. So it's kind of like a rear access to the property. And the front of the house would be facing either east or west, but the addressing would be from the south and the major setback would be from the south.
That's correct.
Okay, well, I've got
Yes,
it.
it's very confusing. I understand your confusion.
Would fencing be allowed, just typical residential fencing?
Yes, it is allowed.
So you could fence against the open space as well, rather than have it open to open space?
Yep.
Okay, that was a couple questions. Then just to make sure, I'm pretty sure I do understand this, but maybe for the record, there were a couple of comments that were made about the number of stories that are allowed. from what I understand, only 2 stories are allowed, even though the maximum height is 35 feet. Is that right?
They did not cap number of stories to 2, so it could go to 3 stories if they could fit that in a 35-foot height limit.
Okay, very good. I had misunderstood that. And then I have a question about, was a traffic study required for the development? And I assume so.
Yes, a traffic generation analysis was required for the ODP level, and that's where we got it's less than fewer than 20 trips a day for, during the peak hour.
Some questions were asked about safety. Was there anything in the traffic study that addressed the fact that there are 2 access points in and out of the property, so 2 potential, for lack of a better word, intersections, as far as from a safety perspective?
Turn it to our engineer for this one.
So what we ended up requiring was just a trip generation letter, which doesn't quite go in depth of a traffic study because our basic requirements for a traffic study is 60 trips during the peak hour, and this was less than 20. So it didn't go into that much detail.
I understand. So then, in looking at that, there was nothing that would indicate that there was a need to look harder at that?
No.
Very good. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Councilor Cotta.
Thank you. The question about parking has come up, and I want to make sure to ask some questions related to this. With the current, and I know this is ODP level, so this may not get to the root of it. But if this is the one time it's coming before council, I feel like I must ask. Besides garage parking, is there like we're thinking like maybe 30 feet is what the concrete would need to be, maybe including sidewalk in that space. Regardless of flow traffic, two-way would still allow for parking on the street if that were to occur in that space. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that is the applicant's current plan, but we are not at that stage. However, there is the requirement for 4 parking spaces per unit, and then there's also space where they could do some tucked parking spaces for guest parking.
Can we explore that
along
just
the
a
road.
tiny bit further? Thank you. The 4 parking spaces per unit, I imagine would include the 2 garage spaces?
Yeah, that's correct.
Does that mean like 2 garage and then a driveway that can hold 2?
That's correct.
And then street parking is the
Then
is-
they
is
could
the
do street
additional-
parking as well, yes.
That makes sense to me. As Councilmember Larson mentioned, this is my neighborhood. I do live in that area. The Toll Brother development that I live in definitely seemed to be in a world where they were assuming that every single garage was going to hold 2 cars. And being in that neighborhood and noticing how many people do not keep garages in their garage and instead keep saunas and exercise equipment and storage and other crazy things. We definitely feel on the other side of the Ward Station neighborhood some pinches when it comes to that kind of parking, but we do have a lot of street parking in that space that kind of takes up a little bit of that brunt. The parking that's up in that area is on 52nd Avenue does not allow street parking anywhere along that, even to the east of Tabor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha. Tabor itself, until you get into the neighborhood, well, maybe there is some street parking that's down closer to the,
I think so too.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Just making sure I'm understanding that piece correctly. We also heard a comment about rooftop patios. Is that allowable in Wheat Ridge? I'm not sure I've seen developments inside of Wheat Ridge that have allowed rooftop patios, but I can easily understand that a full 35 feet with a 5-foot 6-inch person like myself standing on top of it does add significantly to that concern. Is that currently allowable in Wheat Ridge?
It's allowable, but we rarely see it because you're not going to get a 3-story plus a rooftop patio. So usually people elect to do the 2-story with a rooftop.
I see. And to make sure that I'm understanding you, the choice for the developer typically in a 35-foot allowability would be you either get a 3rd story or you get a rooftop patio.
That's typically the case.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I understand. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from council before we close the hearing and ask for a motion? Councilor Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, road improvements on 52nd, is the developer going to be responsible for any improvements?
They will be required to do curb, gutter, and sidewalk, yes.
Okay, and the road right away is whatever it is.
Yeah, it's per the standard street section, so it might get a little bit wider at theirs. It depends on how it falls within the standard section.
I've heard mentions tonight about flat roof, and I know there was a development that we had here in Wheat Ridge that everybody hated the flat roof. And didn't we do, Lutheran said no flat roofs, and is that a possibility for a conditional here?
So we purposely added in architectural standards to require traditional architecture to create varied roofs. So they might have a couple that might be able to be flat roofed, but the whole thing couldn't. They would have to have variety, and some would have to be pitch roofs. So that is already in the ODP, but that is a possibility, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Ohm.
I have one last question for our civil engineer. Does roughly, do you know, does that water line, does that have to be looped?
To our knowledge, yes, it does, because it needs, like Steph was saying, that requirement to have like a dead-end water line can't be more than like 600 feet or whatever it is for Denver water standards, for it to actually be able to have enough water pressure basically to get to the back units.
Thank you.
Counselor Larson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. One real quick one. 52nd Avenue does not go through.
That is correct, not to the
And
east.
is it platted for a street through there?
It is not, no.
It is not, okay. Are there any plans to open the connection between the Arvada side and the Wheat Ridge side?
I think Lauren has more history on this.
No,
than I
not a vehicular connection. There's some contemplation of a sidewalk so kiddos can get to Drake Middle School, but not a vehicular roadway connection.
So maybe a sidewalk, but no vehicles going through there?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. This is more a procedural question. I would like to make a recommendation or ask for nothing like that now. Okay.
Counselor Okada.
Question on, if I have intention to make an amended motion, can I make the motion, the original motion as well?
You can make the amended motion if you want.
Okay,
Just make it all at once.
straight up. Yeah.
Any
Thank you.
other questions before we get into motion making and all? Counselor Martell again,
If I wanted to make an amendment, when would I do that?
after we make the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? One question from me, Stephanie, I think you had put on there, bulk plane applies to this. Would you give just a quick description for bulk plane? Because I know not everybody here lives in Wheat Ridge and has
Yeah,
probably dealt with
sure.
that.
So bulk plane should help with the height. It typically does in standard residential zone districts. You basically take the property line and you go up 15 feet and then at a 45-degree angle until you hit the 35-foot height limit. So the purpose is to basically step back development from adjacent development. So it shouldn't be as imposing on adjacent neighbors as it would be as a regular 35-foot height limit.
So while there might be some flat roofs, it's not going to be a big box. You're not looking at.
That's the goal, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council before we close the public hearing? Okay, I will close the public hearing and ask Councilor Okada for a motion.
I move to a recommend approval of case number WZ-24-09, a request for approval for zone change from agricultural 2 to planned residential development with an outlined development plan to facilitate the development of up to 18 single dwellings on the 4.97 acre property located at 5225 Swadley Street for the following reasons. One, the proposed zone change will promote public health, safety, or welfare of the community and does not result in an adverse effect on the surrounding area. Two, the proposed zone change is consistent with the goals and objectives of the city's adopted plans. Three, the proposed zoning, density, and land use are consistent with the intent of planned development, compatible with surrounding land uses, and will result in a high-quality development. Four, the infrastructure in the area can support the development. And five, the criteria used to evaluate a zone change supports the request. I would also like to add the following conditions: reducing the height of 35 feet to 28 feet, allowing a fence or requiring a fence of 8 feet tall on the east side of the development. Pardon me. And a 15-foot landscape setback requirement.
Location of that setback?
The entire perimeter.
Okay.
Sorry, the west, north, and east perimeter.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilor Martell. Do we have discussion on the motion? Councilor Ohm.
I'm in favor of some, but not all. I'm in favor of the fence. I'm not in favor of setting a 28-foot height when the charter calls for a 35-foot height. We have the bulk zone setbacks. That's my one sticking point. I'm not really in favor of the taller fences. I don't want this to look like a compound. But I am willing to compromise at least on the west and north sides where we have the residential. The 5-foot is really minimum. I wish, this is a tight site. I just hope everybody understands of having the 30-foot, the water requirement. That's huge. It takes up a lot of real estate, and it would be nice that what I was hoping for was that if that wasn't the case, then we could have made it a one-way, and I could have given more land for that buffer. But I don't see that. And then the other thing that I hope everybody understands is that besides the open space being in the middle, that also does a double duty as a storm retention area. And so having more landscape setback, I don't know how that's really gonna work, and trying to have the storm be dealt with. But I think this is a really tough site. I would be in favor of if you wanted to propose a moratorium on any roof decks facing the existing west, even north and east. I would have no problem with that if we said no roof decks at all on the property. Thank you.
Councilor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the increased fence height. I would like to potentially limit that to the east side where there is agriculture or undeveloped space, because I think because I believe the need for that higher fence for the horse facility is very important. I was also going to recommend a increase in the landscape setback or the landscape buffer. I would be thrilled with a 15-foot. I would also be happy with a 10-foot setback. And I think that might offer some concession to that space in the middle as well, because it would only be taking an additional 10 feet out of the middle. But I think that is a good switch of space to have the buffer. And I would support the height change as well. Thank you.
Councilor Snow.
I'd just like to add, I appreciate Councilor Okada bringing those. I would support the height change and definitely the increase in fence height. Absolutely on the east side for that property. And then I would also be in favor of the 15-foot landscape buffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Wood.
I also would support the 8-foot fence height, at least certainly on the east side. I think it's actually necessary based on input that we received tonight. I think it's necessary for compatibility. I could also support the 15-foot landscape buffer, although with a concession to 10, that would be a definite improvement. I understand the issues with detention and the use of open space as a potential detention area, and that's great, but I think it could be configured even with the reallocation of land to have a greater landscape buffer on the perimeter. I can go either way on the height requirement, but that's where I stand on those conditions that have been proposed.
Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Okada, for your proposals. So I strongly support the 8-foot fence. I think getting it done this way is much better than any type of variance process. I think we've heard a lot of various concerns tonight, and this is like a very specific concern with a specific solution to it. So I'm very supportive of that. Just on the east side, again, I'm concerned. We all know don't love the walls. excuse me, don't like the high fences. But on the east side, that definitely is a solution. I would be supportive of a 10-foot landscape buffer. In part because one of the things I like about this proposal is the interior play space. You know, I lived in the Highlands for a while, and those blocks at the time, they were designed to be square so that there was a central play area that was like communal and really was meant to build community and connections and sort of co-neighboring in a way that I think traditional suburban plans have kind of gotten away from. So I'd like to, I'm okay with increasing it, but I don't want to take that much out of that central space. I think it's really important. I live on I'm the only 2-story house anywhere near. I'm surrounded by darling mid-century 1-story houses, and my office is on the 2nd floor, and I spend all day looking in my neighbor's yard from the 2nd floor of my house. So privacy is not guaranteed with only 2 stories. My neighbors know. I will call them and be like, the squirrels are eating your peppers. You might want to get out there. But so the privacy issues are not impacted any more by 3 stories than they are by 2 stories in my very lived experience. However, I think, you know, we are looking to have interpretations of this to, you know, comport with the neighborhood. So for that, I would support the 28 feet. So yes to 8 feet on the east side, yes to 10-foot additional 10-foot setback altogether, and yes to 28 feet as ways of meeting some of the concerns of the constituents while still recognizing that this is a plan that really meets our own zoning code and what our newly adopted city plan is asking for us to look at. I think it's actually an incredibly challenging site, and there's no solution that is, it's a really, really hard site. And if that loop road is required for anything, it gets really tough. I love that this is actually a communal oriented development, and you know, I'm sure everyone would love it to have a couple units less than it does, but I don't know if that substantially addresses or would make any like significant changes other than have slightly lower density. I mean, I don't think any developer is going to come in and just do like six units. It's just not where the market is. So so I'm supportive. I would just want to amend to 10 feet instead of 15 on your proposal. Thank you.
Councilor Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number one, definitely in support of at least the 8-foot fence on the east side to keep the horse people away from the regular people, because I know how horses are. And I think that's a good compromise. If it's less around the rest of it, so be it. The setback, however, I like the 15-foot. Number one, on the west and mainly on the west side of the property, there was some discussion over not hurting the trees, and I think that gives the trees a little bit more breathing room, so to speak. And the 15-foot on the east side also helps with the equestrian issue. And the 28-foot, I'm good with too. So that's my opinion. And I'd like to think that it's a good compromise, hearing what we heard tonight from all the people that live around that, and then the equestrian folks who are in Wheat Ridge as well.
Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with Councilmember Ohm's concern about what it says in our charter versus what we would require of this developer. The other concern I have is that if we make this property so tight for the developer, he may decide that it's not even worth it. And there are very few properties within the city that can be developed. And we've heard a lot tonight from the comments that most of the neighbors are not against development, but we're on the verge of making this property undevelopable, and that concerns me. So I support Councilmember Ohm's concerns about the amendments as they were stated.
Don't have any comments. Do we have an amendment to the motion? Would they like to propose an amendment to the motion, or would you like to vote on the motion?
Right now you have a motion with a bunch of conditions.
Yes,
It's been
we do.
seconded, right?
It's been seconded. I'm asking if
Okay.
do we have
So
no?
that's what's in front of you. I suppose you could, was there a
Martell
second? There was. Is
seconded
that
it.
true?
Yeah, Counselor Martell seconded. it.
Right.
So,
So you could try to do amendments, but amendments would probably be in the realm of, okay, delete or change the conditions, which you can do, and that sort of does what I suggested earlier in a different way. But at least then you focus on the topics, setback, fence, and figure out where you're at on it. So amendment territory should probably be to revise the conditions. I'm not telling you what to say, but that's, if you went through that exercise, you might end up with a motion that could be fully voted on.
Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
So if I'm understanding correctly, Mr. Dahl, is that there's an opportunity now to amend the motion? All right. I would like to amend the motion as presented. I would like to amend the conditions to be an 8-foot fence along the eastern portion of the property. I would like to amend the setback from 15 to 10 feet. And I have no proposed amendments, so to keep the 28-foot proposed height limit.
Do we have a second on that proposed amendment?
Second.
That's a second by Counselor Martell. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Counselor Owen.
I just have I have a question for council of those that, and I think the 10 feet, I mean, I think the 5 foot that's now is not enough. And, but I'm trying to be a realist and I'm more in favor of the 10 feet. But does everybody, I mean, by having more landscape, do you think that there's the opportunity for trees? Is that why the 10 feet? Or is it just for distance? I guess that's what I'm asking. Do you think it's going to be trees or is it going to be distance? And the reason I ask that is because with that Denver water of 30 feet being in the road, and then you have that 5 foot overlap, that will push the road. And then I don't know, we didn't ask this question of, will there be an easement on the inside? What will that easement be? Will it be 10 feet? So is it going to be property line, 10 feet easement, can't plant trees, and then 30-foot Denver water, and you would have a landscape, it's just not trees. That's what I'm trying to ask. Thank you.
Counselor Okada.
Ooh, sorry, didn't mean to click on everybody there. For me, it's both, to answer that question. The additional landscaping would add additional protections for the existing community on privacy, on light, sound that are coming through. But I would be a bad CSU alum if I didn't point out the accuracy to the amount of the tree that is underneath the ground and the need for trees to be able to breathe through their roots and the ability to be able to be sustained there. As the comment came up, I took a quick look at the Google satellite images of the trees that are currently boundaring that property. And so strongly for me, it's both. I am supportive of the 10-foot.
Counselor Quinn.
So the answer to the question was, I am thinking that's going to be part of the open space requirement, and we take it from the middle, squeeze things in a little bit, and have that 15 feet around the perimeter as not necessarily trees, but open so the trees that are existing can stay, and we have just a little bit more setback to address the concerns of the neighbors. And then on the east side, we can address a little bit more buffer between the equestrian facility and the housing. That's my thoughts.
Counselor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I echo Councilmember Okada in that for me, it's some more buffer for the light and the noise of the road being directly behind people's homes and the privacy of the pushback a little bit. For me, the 10-foot feels like a realistic compromise of having more green space on the outside. The possibility for trees is definitely there. We could possibly retain more and have more green space for just the benefits of soil and the opportunity for trees, and also offer privacy and some mitigation to those neighbors. So it's both.
Do we have any more discussion on the, Counselor Smith?
For me, it was both also. I echo Counselor Okada, but I do think the discussion that's come up and the awareness about preserving the trees that are there already to the best of anyone's ability is important. And I think that extra room would allow that.
All right. Seeing no more discussion on the amendment to the motion, will the clerk please poll the council? This is Olden. This is just the amendment to the motion. So these are the changes that were just listed. That's the only change. 10-foot setback. Yeah. And clarifying the eastern fence, essentially.
Yeah, that wasn't a change, though.
Right.
That was in the original
was in the
motion.
original
Yeah.
motion. And the height was 28 feet. Okay, so the only, I guess, the only amendment that we're voting on right now is moving from
15 foot to 10 foot
10-foot
landscape buffer,
Yeah,
not
that's
setback.
the effect of the motion to amend.
Okay, so just voting on moving from 15 to 10 feet. Will the clerk please poll the council?
So,
Oh,
Mr.
wait,
Mayor,
sorry.
so this would be a vote on the amendment, and then we go back to
And
the
we'll-
motion that Mr. Okada made.
Yes.
Very well, thanks.
Yes, okay, so this is the amendment to move from 15 to 10 feet. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Seven ayes, one nay, motion carries.
So now we'll return to the original motion with the 15 being 10 feet and everything else staying the same. Do we have discussion on that motion? Any more discussion on that motion? Counselor Larson?
So we're clear, this amendment includes the requirement that the buildings are not taller than 28 feet.
Correct.
Yes. So the buildings would be 28 feet. There would be the 8-foot fence on the eastern side, and the setback would be 10 feet. Buffer, sorry, would be 10 feet. Counselor Ohm?
So if it's 28 feet, there's no restriction on if somebody wanted a rooftop patio, correct?
There was no restriction on rooftop patios anyway. Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen?
Thank you. I'm going to just, since this is the space where we wax poetic on the process, I just, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming to stay engaged over the course of many years. I'm trying to think of anything I've tracked this long, and I'm in transportation advocacy, and that takes a lot of long-term attention. And someone asked tonight, like, what if this was in your backyard? And that's something I always ask myself, because I don't think you can sit up here without casting, the same thought into, how would my experience be impacted by this? I'm really proud of the city plan. I think we have a lot of complicated properties, standalone properties, let alone the jiggy-jaggy border that we share both with Arvada, and we have similar conditions with Lakeside or Lakewood on the other side of our city. And so it's really hard, right? Like, most of you live in Arvada, and we're not, parties to the city plan process. You started this when we had one comprehensive plan. We're ending this with like a different adopted plan. So I just really want to recognize that that process is long and drawn out. And so I appreciate hearing from you guys, but I also just want to say, like, I think the city plan was meant to help us figure out how to address properties just like this, because we have a lot of this throughout our city where we have a long history of agricultural and equestrian use. We really value that in a lot of ways in our community, and we're trying to be good partners in meeting the housing needs regionally and within our own community. So, I want to encourage developers to bring creative ideas and creative ways of looking at properties like this, because this is, I think the first real test of creative interpretation of the city plan, but it's not going to be the last. So I'm glad that as a council, we've been willing to engage in the discussion when it's come to us around what are some elements that can be part of that peaceful coexistence, while still trying to meet our own objectives over our own land use. So I want to thank everyone's participation in that. I've been personally curious what the first real test of our city plan was going to look like. And I just want to thank everyone for informing us on excuse me, what that lived experience is like. Thank you.
Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. And what I want to go over is I want to thank everybody that attended, all the citizens. And I've been, thinking about the 28. I mean, our city charter says 35, and I hold that sacred, that we put that in our city charter, and that's what we're trying to achieve. But this is a unique site. It's like a very small lot, bordering, Arvada on two sides. And at the end of the day, what I don't want is I don't want to, stick by my 35 or nothing. And even if we all did that, said, yeah, we're all going to stick to 35. And at the end of the day, having contempt for those neighbors because their house is at 35. I want the neighbors to feel welcome. And so if that means that I need to compromise to the 28 so that they are more welcome in the community, I'm for that. Thank you.
Counselor Wood.
I just wanted to add to that and thank everyone for coming out and for the comments that were made in writing that we saw. I think that it directed us a little further on what to look at. And furthermore, I think it really shows how much you care and your passion for the area that you live in. And at the end of the day, we are neighbors and we do live next to each other, and we want to continue to have the harmony that we have. So thank you for caring enough to come here, for caring enough to put together comments, and for giving us some things that we needed to pay attention to. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, we'll thank all the residents for being here tonight and for sharing your thoughts and your passion with everybody. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Seven ayes, one nay. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will take a 10-minute recess, so we'll be back at 8:52. Thank you. 2026. We just wrapped up agenda item number 1, but I'm going to go back to Mr. Dahl here because we have a little bit of a special consideration.
Thank you, council. We need to do a little procedural exercise to correct the record. During the break, Councilmember Larson's informed me that he misunderstood the item that was being voted on the last vote, which was, as you will recall, the motion as amended. So it was the motion on the project, as amended with the various changes that I will not go into, with the one change that I won't go into. And there is a procedure for that. The council has in its council rules a procedure for reconsideration. And that comes up occasionally. It's come up in the past, and it's for situations like this and other situations. But this time it does fit. And that procedure is that a member, you can reconsider something you just did, but you can only do it at the same meeting where you did it or the very next regular meeting. So you're within that zone. You're within that time to be able to do that. It's kind of a two-step procedure. There has to be a motion to reconsider, which has to pass by a majority. It's not a supermajority. But that motion can only be made by someone voting on the prevailing side. Now, 7 of you voted on the prevailing side in this last round, so someone other than Councilmember Larson. If that motion passes, what you have done is you've gotten in a time machine and you've gone back in time to the instant before you voted on the main motion as amended. If everyone understands that. I want to make sure you understand before we get into doing it, so there's no questions about it. But if that motion passes, then you've dialed the clock back. Now you're just before you voted on the main motion, which was amended as a result of the amendment of Councilmember, whose motion, it was, in any event, the main motion as amended. And that's back in front of you. You poll the council again. And then the record will show that the council's action on the main motion and frankly on the project is and was as the board will show when you do that. Then you're done. Before we engage in this, are there any questions procedurally about how that works?
Councilor Okada.
Before a motion to reconsider occurs, can discussion on that motion occur? That seems procedurally backwards because I would love to know more.
Here's the time for discussion can be this. We'll get on the record. We'll have someone will make a motion, I assume, to reconsider and I'll help you with that motion. Reconsider the council's vote on the last motion taken, which was to approve the project with the conditions noted would be probably the right motion. And that motion gets seconded, and the discussion on that motion is appropriate, and that's when. I expect that's when Councilmember Larson may describe, why there was some confusion, and he would like the opportunity to have the council vote again. Is that responsive to your question?
Let me make it a little pointier.
Okay.
That would require us to make the motion prior to receiving an explanation on the need for reconsideration. I think I understand, but I want to just make sure that's true.
Correct. It's you would be making the motion prior to receiving an explanation, but you wouldn't vote on the motion until you'd heard the explanation. And I'm absolutely with you. That's as amended.
Councilor Holteen, or Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I'd like to move, and we're gonna have to do this
You
like
can
wedding.
just say so moved.
Yeah.
So moved. I was gonna say we could do it like wedding vows, or so moved as stated by the city attorney.
I have a second. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Holteen and a second by Councilor Ohm. Do we have discussion on that motion?
Thank you, Mayor. When we voted on the final vote that included the conditions, I was under the impression that what we're voting on was not the final, essentially. So I would request that the vote be reconsidered because I intended to vote a different way.
Thank you. So we have a motion, we have discussion. Do we have any more discussion on that motion? Will the clerk please poll the council?
Eight ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Okay. So as Mr. Dahl just said, we are back in time to before we voted on the last motion. Can we have that motion read one more time? Counselor Khan?
Yep, I got it handy. Should I read it with the amendments?
With
Okay,
the
cool.
correct-
Yeah,
Thank
you should read it with the amendment because that was in fact what was voted on. I appreciate
Can
that.
do. Let me, all right, look, I think I got all my notes in line. I move to recommend approval of case number WZ-24-09, a request for approval of a zone change from agricultural 2 to planned residential development with an outline development plan to facilitate the development of up to 18 single-unit dwellings on the 4.97 acre property located at 5225 Swadley Street for the following reasons. One, the proposed zone change will promote public health, safety, or welfare of the community and does not result in an adverse effect on the surrounding area. Two, the proposed zone change is consistent with the goals and objectives of the city's adopted plans. Three, the proposed zoning, density, and land use are consistent with the intent of the planned development, compatible with surrounding land uses, and will result in a high-quality development. Four, the infrastructure in the area can support the development. And five, the criteria to evaluate a zone change supports the request with the following criteria.
Conditions,
So
actually.
thank you, conditions, with the following conditions. A height limit of 28 feet, a requirement of a fence height of 8 feet on the east side of the property, and a 10-foot landscape setback.
Buffer.
Thank
I
you,
think.
buffer.
Thank you.
Second.
So we have a motion by Counselor Okada and a second by Counselor Martell. We've had discussion on the motion. So will the clerk please poll the council?
Eight ayes, no nays, motion carries.
It's like deja vu, but just a little bit different. Okay, moving on to item number 2. Counselor Wood, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, item number 2 is a request for action on Council Bill number 16-2026. This is an ordinance for first reading. This is an ordinance giving notice of and calling a special election to be held November 3rd, 2026, and submitting a ballot question concerning an increase in the city sales and use tax of 1% for community capital improvements. At issue is that City Council is asked to consider an ordinance calling a coordinated election on November 3rd, 2026, and submitting to the registered electors of the city of Wheat Ridge a ballot question authorizing a 1% sales and use tax dedicated to funding voter-approved capital improvements.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. Counselor Wood, may I have a motion?
I move to approve Council Bill number 16-2026, an ordinance giving notice of and calling a special election to be held on November 3rd, 2026, and submitting a ballot question concerning an increase in the city sales and use tax of 1% for community capital improvements.
Second.
I have a second by Counselor Snell. Will the clerk please poll the council?
Eight ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3, Mayor Pro Tem Holteen, will you please introduce this item?
Yeah, it'd be my pleasure. I'd like to introduce resolution number 35-2026, a resolution amending the 2026 fiscal year housing fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $2.64 million and approving a grant agreement with the Colorado Energy Office. Is there a presentation or should I read the at issue?
We have a short, few comments. Do you want her to read it? Is that better? Is that better if just she reads the issue statement? Yes,
I'll
read
go
the
ahead and
issue
read it.
statement.
Okay,
Go
all
with the
right,
issue
all
statement.
right, all right. I'm ready to read the issue statement. At issue, the city of Wheat Ridge was awarded $2.64 million from the Colorado Energy Office Local Impact Accelerator Grant Program. The funding will support several housing-related code amendments and will provide financial assistance to certain affordable housing projects. The city must approve a grant agreement to receive the funds. A supplemental budget appropriation is also required to appropriate the funds in the 2026 Housing Fund budget.
Thank you. This is a resolution for the council. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Goff?
Now, Shannon does, you don't see Shannon very often. Shannon's our senior housing planner, but I think she has a few more things to add.
Thanks, Patrick. And hi, Mayor and City Council. As Patrick said, I am the city's senior housing planner. I've met a few of you guys, but I haven't met all you guys since you were elected last fall. The resolution, as we said, just formally accepts the grant award and allows us to appropriate the funds into the budget. The funds will be used to hire a consultant to complete a zoning code analysis and potential housing supportive code amendments, and the creation of a rebate program that will help offset plan review fees for ADUs, multi-unit, and soft costs for affordable housing.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from council? Seeing no questions, oh, go ahead.
Help me understand if if council were not to approve this request, what would happen to the grant?
I don't think we would be able to execute the grant agreement.
Sounds simple. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councilor Quinn.
Wrong button. Going through the packet, and I remember I had a question on this. Creating a new residential R4 district. What does that look like? Kind of at a 30,000 foot, please.
Yeah, so our 2023 adopted housing plan has a strategy of creating an R4 zone district. And the city plan also carries that same strategy. So this would be implementing those strategies from the adopted plan.
I think what we realized, the reason that was in there, Councilor Quinn, is because our current residential base zoning stops at R3, which is 12 DU per acre, and it's a big leap between that and our PRD 21 DU per acre. So when a lot of townhome projects were coming through in the last 5 to 10 years, they were requesting to rezone a mixed-use neighborhood, which felt incongruous with the project's intent. So it would really be the intent of R4 is to create a townhome zone district that aligns with the market that we're seeing on some of our corridors like 38th and 44th.
Councilor Larson.
Yeah, one more. The second bullet item on, that's page 128 of our agenda tonight. It said, the second bullet says remove zoning barriers near Main Street, 38th Avenue, and commercial corridors. What does removing zoning barriers look like?
Yes, I think our city plan has a few strategies related to non-residential code amendments, those being to support businesses along those corridors. Lauren, do you want to share anything?
Yeah, I think, it was intended to be the language that we're using to say we're going to audit the zoning code and see where are some of the code requirements that are inhibiting the investments that we want to see. So barriers to either residential that we want to see or commercial that we want to see. I think some of that language is also borrowed from the CEO grant program. That's their intent with their funds, is to promote housing production. So we don't know what those are. We have not done that complete audit, but that's what we'd be hiring the consultant to bring fresh eyes, and also be using some of the lessons learned that we've had from some development inquiries that have inquired, explored, and then walked away.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, Mayor Pro Tem Holteen, may I please have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve resolution number 35-2026, a resolution amending the 2026 fiscal year housing fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $2.64 million and approving a grant agreement with the Colorado Energy Office.
I have a second by Councilor Ohm. Do we have discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
You get one do-over in a day. Agenda item number 4, Councilor Martell, will you please introduce this?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce resolution number 36-2026, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for election coordination with the clerk and recorder of the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado, for participation in the November 3rd, 2026 general election. At issue, the resolution authorizes the City of Wheat Ridge to participate in the Jefferson County general election on November 3rd, 2026, and authorizes the appropriate city officials to execute an intergovernmental agreement with Jefferson County for election services. The city intends to submit a ballot issue or question to its eligible electors and will comply with applicable state election and Tabor notice requirements. The resolution also designates the senior deputy city clerk as the city's election officer and designated election official.
Thank you. This is a resolution for the council. It's not a quasi judicial public hearing, so we will ask Mr. Goff for a presentation.
I think the issue statement pretty much covers it. Yep, I think
All
we're
right.
good. Unless you
Thank
have
you.
any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, Councilor Martell, may I have a motion?
I move to approve Resolution Number 36-2026, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for election coordination with the clerk and recorder for the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado, for participation in the November 3rd, 2026 general election.
Second.
We have a second by Councilor Okada. Do we have discussion on the motion? Councilor, or Mayor Pro Tem Holteen?
Yeah, big fan of voting and democracy and confidence in both. And I'm just excited that, this is a standard procedure that we do every year. But I am just proud that the state has been able to defend sending our voter rolls to the federal administration. Voting is a state regulated and implemented by the counties, and Colorado is holding the line on how we run our elections. So I am proud that we have a trustworthy partner in the county in running our election. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, will the clerk please poll the council?
Eight ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5, Councilor Larson, will you please introduce this?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a motion approving an agreement for use of transit-oriented communities infrastructure grant funds between the city and Foothills Regional Housing. The city of Wheat Ridge was awarded $4.5 million from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs Transit-Oriented Communities Infrastructure Grant Program to fund public infrastructure for Foothills Regional Housing's Ridge Road Master Plan. The city will pass these funds to Foothills Regional Housing, and this agreement establishes their obligations in carrying out the project as a subcontractor.
Thank you. This is a motion for the council. Mr. Goff, do we have a presentation?
Yeah, I think Shannon has a few comments as well on this one.
I was just going to add that the approval of the agreement will allow us to execute the grant agreement with DOLA for this one as well.
Do we have any questions?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I had a hard time hearing you.
Yes, the approval of this agreement will allow us to execute the agreement with DOLA to use the grant funds as well.
Any other, Councilor Larson?
And for the record, would you mind just kind of the items that will be supported, the work that will be supported by this grant?
Yes, the grant will pay for the public improvements for the perimeter on 54th Avenue, Miller Street, and Ridge Road, adjacent to the city of Arvada, and the Foothills Ridge Road Master Plan. The development will be 200 units of affordable housing and the addition of a Red Rocks Community College nursing facility on the site. So the grant funds will be specifically used for the public infrastructure for that.
And the grant money will include, in addition to roadways, it will include sidewalks especially along Ridge.
Yes, sidewalks, curb and gutter, tree lawn, trees, as well as signal modifications to Ridge Road and 54th Avenue.
And one last question. It mentions that the grant will support the installation of of roadways, sidewalks, and other infrastructure. But it does specifically mention sewers. And as the city doesn't operate our own sewers, is this something that will be passed along to the sanitary district then, or how does that the assets in the ground, the sewer pipes in the ground, they will be replaced at the expense of this grant?
Correct. Yes, Foothills will subcontract with the sewer district, and they will complete the work to upgrade the sanitary sewer lines that will be off-site from this.
Okay, and it all obviously includes the storm drains as well.
I believe so, yes.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Okada.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Larson. You dug up something really, really interesting. The Planet Terrell, I don't think we have met, but you mentioned something about signal improvements. Does that include the signal at Ridge Road and Miller, the one next to the railroad crossing?
Yes, that's the correct
And
intersection.
I
Yeah.
imagine it's, we don't know what that change is going to look like, but the funding is there for those improvements.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood. Thank
Mhm.
you.
And the improvements are required by the city, by us. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Counselor Larson, may I have a motion, please? May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the agreement for use of transit-oriented communities infrastructure grant funds between the city and Foothills Regional Housing, and further move to authorize and direct the mayor and city attorney to execute the same with instruments as necessary to facilitate and complete the obligations under the agreements.
Second?
I have a second by Counselor Wood. Do we have discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
That concludes all of our agenda items for tonight. We have a special study session here, so we will go ahead and conclude our meeting for the evening, and we will re-adjourn in a special study session. We just took a break, so does anybody need a break, or can we just roll right in? All right, so I will go ahead and adjourn. It is 9:15, and I will adjourn, or I will call to order our special study session for August 10th, 2026. We have one agenda item tonight, which is a consensus on our 2027 outside agency requests. Mr. Goff, do you have a presentation with that?
Real brief, yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's purpose is to get council's direction on the 5 outside agency funding requests presented at last week's study session. Collectively, the requests total approximately $707,000. The requests are, to remind you, Carnation Festival Committee, $125,000, Local Works, $377,200, Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce, $60,000, Ralston House, $44,250, and the Wheat Ridge Historical Society, $100,780. You heard directly from each of these organizations last week about their programs, accomplishments, and requested funding. Tonight, staff is asking for consensus on the level of funding, if any, that should be included in the proposed 2027 budget. For each request, council can fund it as requested, fund it at a different amount, or decline to provide funding. If there are any conditions or performance expectations you want associated with funding, we would appreciate that direction as well. So, Mayor, I ask for recommendations on the request.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we start with Ralston House as our first discussion item. So they're asking for $44,250. Do we have any discussion on that? Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. As we are a partner with them and they do a lot of really good work, I am in favor of that amount. I'll be brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Second, I propose approving it as presented to us.
Counselor Larson.
And just for the record, as we discussed last week, this is a one-time grant.
This is a one-time grant, yes.
Correct. It's for renovations to their building, yes. And every community in Jefferson County is also contributing.
Counselor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to just say this now, not just for Ralston House, but for all of these requests. I apologize again, and I did in advance for missing last week's meeting, but I did review everything, and I appreciate all of my peer council members and Mayor Pro Tem, and the questions you all asked covered a lot of the things I had been thinking about. So I appreciate everybody who was here last week to present. I'm sorry I wasn't here in person. And as far as Ralston House goes, I absolutely support this.
Go ahead, Counselor Wood.
I was just going to add my support. I would be in favor of approving as requested.
Okay. Do we have a consensus to approve Ralston House at $44,250? We do have a consensus to move that one forward. Okay. We'll go to Local Works next. Local Works was asking for $377,200. Did that include their grant request?
That does. That includes their base budget plus 50,000 for a business grant program.
Okay. Discussion on Local Works' budget. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we adopt it, or I propose a consensus that we adopt it as presented. I know we have previously funded the business grant program at a higher dollar amount. What I'd like to propose is that next year at our mid-year financial check-in, if the city is in good financial shape and we have confidence that we can do another tranche of funding for the businesses, and if Local Works agrees that that would be a priority for council in 2027, would be to consider a second tranche of business grants, because it is important, but I do know that the budget that is being prepared is tight, and I appreciate that Paige and her team put a lot of thought into what they gave us, and I'm happy to prove it as it is, and then consider more funding in 2027.
Thank you. Councilor Ohm.
Mayor Pro Tem, I concur.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, do we have a consensus to move Local Works' budget forward with $377,200 with the contingency that they can ask for more for their business grant funding later on that year? We do. Okay. So that's a yes. We will go to the Historical Society asking for $100,700 or $780. And that included, Mr. Goff, does that include the full-time?
Yeah, that's again their base budget, which I believe was about 11,000, and then it would be one full-time employee that it would be a city employee. The city would manage and supervise, and the duties would include assistance to the Historical Society, our public art program, and our cultural commission programming.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Councilor Quinn?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I like this. I think this gives an opportunity perhaps to get some grant funding that they talked about that they would have time to get write some grants for some funding and record things that they need, and hopefully we'll have more than the same 3 people involved that always are with this.
Thank you. Councilor Okada.
Part discussion, but part question. I really like that we have this as a part of what we're considering, $100,780. This wouldn't include part-time, full-time employee. This wouldn't include that piece of that in the funding, would it? Or would that-
100,000 includes a full-time employee. Yeah,
Okay.
it was about 89,000, I think is what we estimated with benefits.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. I do like that we're considering this for the Historical Society because it's a really important piece of work. I love the clarification that we got from the study session that we had last time about what that full-time employee would be doing and what the likelihood of that landscape looks like. And I also want to express appreciation to the Historical Society for not just being scrappy in the best way possible, but by coordinating and getting to this point that we are right now. That's that kind of devotion, that kind of care, that kind of passion is not something that you can ever really rely on. And so I just wanted to say thank you to the Historical Society on that. I'm fully supportive.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. I'm also supportive of what the Historic Society has put forward. I'm in support of the full package. I just want to acknowledge that the decision about a full-time employee really falls also within our city budget discussion. So I feel like the direction tonight is, one, giving direction on the operational costs of $11,000 that the Historic Society has requested, and then giving direction to the city manager about moving forward with the FTE to be included in the budget proposal, at which time we would then also be discussing it as part of our full-time, our FTE schedule and budget analysis. So I just want to kind of make note that that we traditionally talk about FTE hires as part of like the overall budget process. So I support giving direction to include this position, but also recognize that there's the full suite of FTEs and hires is not known to us until we actually get the full budget. So I'm supportive of it, but I just want to make an acknowledgement that there's sort of a second part to this conversation in which that is then contemplated within the whole of our FTE budget presentation.
Thank you. Councilor Martell.
I concur with Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen on separating this into the two buckets and holding on the FTE conversation, which I do support for the FTE conversation. Thanks.
Councilor Larson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I completely agree that these need to be two separate, they're not two separate ideas because one supports the other. But I believe the Historical Society has made a good case for getting the sort of professional assistance that this additional FTE would be involved in. The quick question, there is already, I believe, 2 part-time city employees that provide services to the Historical Society. Is that correct?
Oh, everybody left me. No, I don't think we have 2 part-time. I mean, Brandon who's a full-time employee. He provides, he's the staff liaison.
I was under the impression there is like guides that show up on Fridays to.
Those are not city employees. They're part of the Historic Societies, I think,
Paid out of their
volunteers.
They're paid out of the
Yes,
11,000.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
They're not city.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree that when we get to the point where we're talking about the number of FTEs, and that's always a very, very important discussion for council to have, that we consider this as part of it. But again, the Historical Society has made a very good case for the need to have a professional helping to run that. Not just the day-to-day operations, but sort of what happens next with the Historical Society, given the conditions that they have. They're a nonprofit, and the need for professional assistance is great. So I think it's very important that we consider both of those, even though they are 2 separate sort of ideas. Thanks.
Councilor Snell.
Just throwing in my support for that too. Those are 2 separate things. I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem bringing that to our attention. This person with this unique skill set will have lots of other duties as well. So appreciate that separate discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a consensus to move the Wheat Ridge Historical Society request with their budget at 11,000 and change, and then the discussion for a full-time equivalent during the budget discussion? We do. Okay. Moving on to the Carnation Festival, and everybody who participated in that this weekend, thank you. And it was an amazing festival. They are asking for 125,000. Do we have discussion on that? Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen, I'll let you start.
I'll let someone else go first. There's
Okay.
other hands.
Councilor Okada.
Thank you. Last year we did 100,000 to the Carnation Festival. I would express support for doing 100,000 again instead of 125,000. I did feel, I hesitate to say it, but I do feel like the budgeting that was expressed to us at the last study session left me wanting more precision, left me wanting more detail. And maybe even more care in the context of a budget. I know our presenter cares a ton about the Carnation Festival. I care a ton about the Carnation Festival. It's an important part of who we are as a city. And in that same way, I think I care about making sure that its funding is nice and clear and expressed in a clean way. I know that we have likely some additional detail behind the scenes that we just didn't receive that could instill that kind of confidence. But in my opinion, we should be receiving that at the presentation rather than after the fact. Not to say that I have received anything additional in that way. That's my thought.
Thank you. Councilor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with Councilmember Okada. I also was left wanting more information, and I would like to propose maybe for later conversation among city council for next year when we're getting ready for outside agency discussions to maybe put some parameters in place as to what we're looking for when they come to talk to us. I agree that the Carnation Festival is very important to our community. I just would like more information before we, as we move forward with additional funds, but I support the $100,000 for this year.
Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very supportive of the Carnation Festival, but I would like the way that this is formatted to look very similar to at least Local Works, their presentation and detail. The one question I have, which maybe is unique, is is there any reason why we can't include all the PD, Parks and Rec, staff time, just to give a picture for the Carnation Festival? Could we?
We used to, and we used to budget it separately in your budget, just
Yeah.
so that you'd see it. And we typically budget about 25,000 for PD, Public Works, and Parks over time. I think it's exceeded that the last few years. It just became cumbersome, so we're not doing that anymore. It's budgeted in their department budgets. So the departments keep track of that. We can bring that number back, but it's typically was 25,000, so it's probably more now.
Thank you.
That's on top of the cash donation.
Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. I also support 100,000. I know Carnation Festival is fresh in everyone's memories, and probably somewhere in their bodies too if they ate some of the good food. But to increase the budget, I'd want a more compelling case of why the budget increase. And I know there's increasing costs, but I feel like the budget we were presented didn't give me a clear picture of where those cost increases are, and also how the board, who does so much work, is balancing the portfolio of revenue. And I think to what has been said, I mean, there's sort of this tension of like, we fund it every year, so there's sort of like a base assumption that we will continue funding it, and our constituents want that. And so I think that's, an important assurance. But if things are changing, I think for us to understand better what's changing about it, because at the end of the day, we're accountable for the public funds. And I heard a couple of my colleagues mention just maybe setting some more specific parameters and requirements to our partners so that they show up prepared with a better budget narrative. I feel like some of our community grant recipients who are getting $7,000 have a little bit clearer instructions on what they're supposed to bring to us, especially if they are getting year over year funding, to include a little bit better reporting out of how previous year fundings have impacted, because these are really city partnership funds. So I don't know if we have to meet Local Works standards, because Local Works has a staff and does a lot of deep budget presentations. Carnation Festival does one budget presentation a year. So I don't know if the Local Works standard, but I think maybe, Patrick, you could work with mayor pro tems and mayors to kind of establish a little bit more criteria so that the partners, it's easier for us to not have to try and interpret budgets as much. So anyway, I'm supportive of $100,000 for them.
Thank you. Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just to echo my colleagues, I also am in favor of the 100,000. And I'm definitely also in favor of a few more parameters being put around these presentations, and just, approaching this presentation with a level of not necessarily expectation, but being armed with enough information to answer the questions that we have. I know this is an important part of our community, our history. I also know that we have a lot of new folks who could benefit from, learning what is the Carnation Festival, what is it celebrating? And I hope that everybody got to go out and enjoy it. But I do see an opportunity just to shore things up a little bit so that there's not so much nebulousness in the budget presentation. But yes, I'm definitely in favor of the 100,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Quinn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I too am agreeable to the dollar amount. I think it would be good for transparency. Our constituents want transparency and clarity, and they want to see where their tax dollars are going. And in the day and age where we're going to the ballot with an additional question for increasing those, and I think they deserve that transparency. So I think we should ask the presenters to bring a lot more detailed information, because it's amazing how many people watch this on YouTube and everything else. I'm shocked by that, to be honest, how many people really do watch this. And so I think it's, if we ask for that transparency and that view into those budgets, I think the community would appreciate it.
Counselor Larson.
And thank you, Mayor. And while I do agree that the reporting we get back from the Carnation Festival Committee could be beefed up a little bit and provide a little bit a greater insight into their revenue and their expenses. I do tend to support their original request for 125,000 because they are looking at down the road when they look at the next year, they see the across the board the cost going up, and their goal of maintaining that reserve. If they're forced to dig into the reserve because $100,000 brings them up short, then that creates a problem. So I would support the original request of 125,000.
I would suggest that they can also get more sponsors and other things as well. Counselor Wood.
I'm going to echo the comments made pretty much. I'm supportive of the 100,000, and I would agree that it would have been nice to perhaps hear some more in-depth answers on some of the questions that were asked the other day. And I think, as Councilmember Martell suggested, putting together some parameters and criteria for presenters would be very helpful to them, particularly for presenters such as the Carnation Festival, who's presenting on the eve of the festival itself. So to have a good understanding of what's expected will help them to not only do their job and help with the transparency that Councilmember Quinn noted, but it will help us as well. So.
All right, do we have consensus to move Carnation Festival forward at 100,000? We do. Okay. And the last one is the Wheat Ridge Chamber of Commerce requesting 60,000. Councilor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I will start this conversation. When I was reviewing the packet and listening to the conversation with the chamber, I think that it's a important organization, but I had a really hard time following the conversation and tying it to the numbers that they presented. I think that some of the funding requests, and I don't have all the details in front of me, but seemed a little arbitrary and higher than made sense to me. So I would like to propose a lower funding amount because I do want to see them successful. I know that they are in a difficult time of transition with the loss of Dominic, which is still rippling through our community. And I know that his shoes, we've talked in prior meetings, are very big shoes to fill. And so I'd like to see them get funding so that they can do some strategic planning, so they can get their legs under them to figure out this next iteration. But I would feel more comfortable with more of a $10,000 to $15,000 range, even leaning personally closer to the $10,000 range.
Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to have some type of format, spreadsheet that would show, what was proposed last year, what they did, some type of format. I don't know how much do we know how much we gave them last year?
We didn't give them any.
We did, and this is their first, they've requested once before, and we did not fund them. This is their second request. we fund them. We're a member, so we pay dues, which is about
Okay.
$1,000, I believe.
I think, you know, my understanding is that the merger doesn't want to happen between the other party, and so probably getting rid of that 5K on the bottom. And then I'm not sure if there's a duplication when I read, you know, promotion, small business outreach through events and advertising, and I scroll down, it says towards the cost of outreach and marketing to local community and small business. It seems like there's a little bit of redundancies, and so I guess I would be in favor of a reduction. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thanks. I'm in alignment with Council Member Martell in the 10 to 15,000. I think I kind of see it a little bit like the Ralston House. It's like a one time. We've just adopted the prosperity plan. There's an opportunity for the chamber to spend some time doing some strategic work around partnership with the city. And there are other organizations in the city like Local Works to be strategically partnering with. I do see they're a membership-based organization. And so I think, you know, if they had brought like a really specific and better articulated program proposal around how they're going to, you know, boost local business, you know, they just kind of brought some vagaries to us. And I think maybe some of that is just anchored in the need for some support around strategic planning. So I would support the 10 to 15, but I would want it to include some strategic planning deliverables, including, you know, partnering with the city, partnering with Local Works and other community organizations that align with the chamber's own goals and operations. So that's where I am on it.
Thank you. Councilor Snow.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to kind of echo our thoughts here, but I wanted to call special attention to our visitor tonight who kind of summed up some of the, I guess, more recent conversations that have happened at the chamber in relation to our prosperity plan. And I wanted to kind of just give a shout out to say thanks for kind of diving into that. I do think there's some more work to be done there, but I do appreciate the work and the time that that individual took to come here and say, these are the things that we align on, because that's really a good start to how we're going to continue to work together. And I do want to see the chamber succeed. I think that there's a lot of heart and a lot of good coming from the chamber. But I was also a little concerned with the discussion and the ask for money for the pursuing the merger with the WRBA without even reaching out to the WRBA. So I am hopeful that in other discussions, in other presentations, like we've said, there's a little bit more detail, there's a little bit more meat to the presentation, but I would support granting them in the $10,000 to $15,000 range for sure. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Councilor Larson, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I did. I was thinking Councilmember Okada. I thought he had a question. Sorry. This is a real puzzler for me. I'm frankly not inclined to grant them anything other than our membership. The requests for a Chamber of Commerce for promotion and marketing and that sort of things, these seem to me to be sort of internal revenue sources that either their membership or sponsorships or something else should be supporting, and I don't believe the support should come from the city. And the other part of this is that if we grant money to the chamber and we don't to the Wheat Ridge Business Association, which as far as we are concerned are equal, they have equal status with the city. But if we grant money to one, we don't the other, I think it kind of puts us in a little difficult position. And then there is the issue of asking for money for a merger that that was never brought up with the other party. So yeah, I'm unless they come back with some other ideas for where the money's going to go, backed up by some of their own revenue generation, I just can't support giving them anything other than a membership.
Councilor Quinn.
Question for for Patrick, do other cities give to their chambers as well? Exclude Denver, of course.
Not typically. They're usually separate for good reason. They, they partner, of course, but they usually are not funded by the city. Very rarely.
Just to give my thoughts on this, having worked with all of the associations in the business community, I think having a strong chamber in the city of Wheat Ridge is incredibly important for our success long-term. I think that we've done a lot as a city to attract new businesses and residents that will support those businesses, and we need to give those businesses support to make sure that they have a future success here. I don't think if WRBA wanted the money from the city, they could have requested it, and they've never really requested it other than the city being a member. And my discussions with the WRBA is they don't necessarily want that money because it does come with strings. When it comes from the city, we have expectations that you're meeting certain guidelines. So, if the chamber wants to take on those responsibilities like Local Works does, I'm perfectly okay with that. But I do feel like a chamber should have some autonomy that maybe Local Works sometimes doesn't, because they are fully, or, well, not anymore, but they do get a lot of money from the city. But the chamber should have that autonomy to have their members come in here and tell us that we're not doing a good job, or that we're not supporting their businesses or their business community, and the chamber should be able to come and advocate for that business community. So I don't necessarily think that we should have an ongoing relationship where we fund them, but to get them started, and I do think that we do give a lot of credit to Dominic, and he deserves that, but they do have a board that has been working extremely hard, and in some ways have been overshadowed a little bit by what's gone on over the last couple of months. Their board is extremely dedicated, and what I worry about is that we waste all of the momentum that they have built over the last year or two, where they've gained a ton of members, they've got great leads groups, they've got great programming, but maybe we could help them become a little bit more of a professional chamber. So where I support Councilor Martell and Mayor Pro Tem Holteen and others that have said this, is maybe giving them $10,000 to $15,000 to get a consultant or somebody in here to help them become a professional chamber, help them get better criteria for themselves to measure by, and then have better criteria for us as a city, and create more established strategic long-term partnerships with places like Local Works and that. So that's my view on it.
So Mayor, if we're thinking about this as a one-time, yeah, if it's understood going in that this is a one-time, and that if there's another request next year, it'll have to be a fairly high bar to meet.
Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, I'd like to see if we've got consensus I'm just going to split it to support the Wheat Ridge Chamber at $12,500 with expectation that this is a one-time investment to help them maintain their momentum, gain some strategic alignment with opportunities that we have with Jill and the Prosperity Plan and other community partners to ensure that the chamber has a strategic, long-term resilient plan to be a strong, independent, membership-based organization in our community. Do we have consensus for that?
We have consensus at 12.5?
12.5.
12.5, okay. Mr. Goff, does that help you out?
That's everything we needed. Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll go to staff presentations.
Nothing else this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Elected officials, keeping in mind that it's late. We'll start. Councilor Okada.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to the Rainbow Ridge residents that had come out earlier today. Truly neighbors of mine. When there was only 3 buildings of the Toll Brother community that had been built at that time, There wasn't many of us that had kind of come in and maybe invaded a little bit in the neighborhood. And walking through Rainbow Ridge to get to Van Bibber and get to access to amenities that are walkable for us on the north side of I-70 was a really big deal. I was a little saddened to hear that that as we've grown in our neighborhood, some additional neighbors have gone in and are not cleaning up after their dogs. So I would want to make sure to say that to everybody all around being good neighbors, I think is really important. And I really appreciate that the neighborhood came out to voice their opinion and are so coordinated to be able to express what they believe in and what they want to defend. I am sad and sorry to have missed the parade on Saturday. Thank you, on Saturday, and thank you, council members, for sharing with me what a wonderful event that was, so I could live vicariously through you in that moment. I will be there next year.
Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And as a member of the Revival Wheat Ridge Commission, we had a meeting on Tuesday night. Patrick delivered his State of the City address as professionally as always. Every time I see it, and this is about the 5th time now, there's another item that the city has done or accomplished or added that makes for a very good overview of the city, but it also adds to the length of that delivery. The other thing that the Renewal Wheat Ridge Commission approved was hiring of a consultant to come in for the next 5 months, just, very limited sort of an agreement to help the economic development folks here in the city come up with some good workable plans for improving and attracting new businesses to the city of Wheat Ridge. Very quickly, we had the Carnation Fest, the mayor's reception. We had, on Friday night, I went to the opening night and had a bunch of spaghetti, and it was really good. On Saturday, the parade got the soles of my feet quite warm, but it was most enjoyable watching the kids' faces light up. And as you're passing out the candy, it was just a lot of fun. And then Big Wheels on the Farm on Sunday, always my highlight for the 3-day event. And there was a 1971 AMC Javelin, 1971 brown, if you can imagine that color, right? That's what the car was. Ugly as hell, but I loved it. And then a 1963 Lincoln Continental with the suicide doors, and I always thought those are something in automotive design that they should have kept. And that brings us up today. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Wood.
I have little to add to that, other than the Carnation Festival was fantastic. I was there on Sunday afternoon, and I was amazed that an hour and a half before closing time, there was still a lot of people there enjoying the event. So it was wonderful. I also have to say the parade on Saturday, I've never had so much fun in my life handing out candy, not just to the kids, but the adults. They were into it as well. It was a great time and really, really well attended. I felt very privileged to get to do that.
Thank you. Councilor Quinn.
Ditto. I'd like to drive the front end loader next year if I could. I need a little fix. Was a wonderful time. I think I had 53 million steps Saturday. I think Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen rode 400 miles. It was a great time, and I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. I believe the tent will be named after me and Corey next year as the drinking brothers. I think we paid our fair share in dues for that.
Yes, we did. Councilor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I ditto what everyone else said about the Carnation Festival. I do want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen for bringing the dog treats. I always think about it once I get to the parade. And I do want to add on to what Councilmember Larson said about the big wheels on the green, on the farm. God, sorry. I was honored to give one of the awards away at that awards celebration, and it was super fun. And I was also impressed that all the awards were made by Warren Tech students. So they were all these really cool welded metal car parts, and I was like, that's cool. That's all I've got to add.
Thank you. Councilor Snell.
Thank you. Just another nod to our Carnation Festival weekend. Great time at the parade. I was happy to get the day off to walk in the parade. I'm sad that I didn't actually make it to the festival. I had a really sick pup at home, and so I spent my time with him. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor's reception was really great, a lot of fun. And I loved having it at the Green, having District 2 host that. Really thankful for that. And then the Carnation Parade, I did a lot better this year and didn't go through a ton of candy. And that was a good thing. Handed out a lot of fans, and I thought it was really well attended. And actually, just I think my first couple years, I'm sure I probably was just like, throw out the candy, throw out the candy. This time, I actually, said a couple words to people, and thanked them for coming. So that's a good. And then went to the Friday night and Saturday night to check out the music down there, and got a lot of steps from my house to the festival. And some really great bands. Picked some really great bands that reminded me when I was a lot younger. We'll just say that. And I thought they did great. And really thankful for everything that happens. We got a good city. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I also want to thank again everyone who came out tonight. We are only as good as the people who engage with us. So, and I want to thank my colleagues for a thoughtful discussion. I feel like a lot of times with zoning, we feel like it's an up-down conversation. And I thank you, Councilmember Okada, for leading with the conditions. I think it showed that we can be in dialogue and still move things forward. So I think a lot of councils would not have gotten through that. And I just want to thank you guys. Ditto on Carnation Festival. Three of us live within listening distance of it, so I don't even have to go to hear all the bands. It's really fun. But what I love is the stream of neighbors walking by my house all weekend as they're walking down, they're on bikes. So it's kind of fun. And then as Councilmember Martell mentioned, I did bring some dog treats to hand out to the other parade watchers. And I'll tell you what, if you want to win the hearts of people, give their dogs a treat. Anyway, those dogs don't vote, but they were very happy with the dog treats. And then I got home and my own dog was like, oh, is that a half a box of leftover treats for me? And I disappointed her greatly by giving her one. Like, she literally watched the box as I put it up on top of the refrigerator. So anyway, I just want to thank everyone for their involvement, both on the city side and on the Carnation Festival. I know it's a lot of coordination, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are enjoying less to do this week. So thank you.
For sure. I'm sure Joe DeMont is still taking a nap. But yes, I want to thank everybody who was out tonight to express their opinions and concerns. And I want to thank this council for being so collaborative and not just rubber stamping or voting down something and really coming up with solutions that would help them. You don't often have people shaking your hand when they leave a public forum like that. So I do want to thank the Carnation Festival. They did a phenomenal job. Joe DeMont, Leah Dozman, Walt Pettit, the whole crew there. They all did a phenomenal job all weekend. All the volunteers who made sure that the weekend ran, the Optimists, the Rotary, the Kiwanis, all did a phenomenal job passing out beer and making sure that everybody had a lot of fun. The bands were phenomenal. It was laid out fantastically. Congratulations to Hunter Owen, Christy Davis, and Jerry DiTullio, our royalty for this year. Well deserved. They all do a phenomenal job. So huge thank you to them. It was a fantastic festival. I always get a chance to see, it's like a family reunion, a high school reunion, and like everything else around there. So really enjoyed it. That was number 57. So we're coming up on 60 pretty fast. So that was a great weekend. So everybody enjoyed. I also had the opportunity with Councilor Larson to bury the time capsule after the parade on Saturday for the Historical Society. They had several really neat items in there, including the last pennies that were ever minted in 2026, the 2026 quarters, the opening of the Green, the program from that and the program from Dominic's funeral as well. So along with several other things. So great time capsule will be open in 50 years, 2076. So pretty impressive. Thank you to everybody who makes our city operate so efficiently, our staff who does an amazing job, the police officers, Public Works, everybody who was out this week in Parks and Rec, who all made this Carnation Festival possible and did a phenomenal job. We will be back in a week for a study session. So thank you very much. Have a great night. Be safe. And if you can find it by in Wheat Ridge.